A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Five bells. Stand by all stations.
Attention, all districts. A 5-alarm fire. 5 bells move in immediately.
That's it. Let's roll.
Let's go. Firefighters.
Presenting Firefighters, the true-to-life story of our unsung heroes who stand ready to ride by day or night against our most murderous enemy, the demon of fire. In a moment, we'll join Chief Cody and rookie fireman Tim Collins as they probe deeper into the latest of a whole series of mystery fires that have plagued the department in recent days. They've just put out a mattress fire in a locked bedroom in a house also locked up and deserted. How could this fire have been set? And yet there's no explanation as to how it could have started by itself. But in one way, they are moving closer toward the source of these strange sudden fires, and we'll see how when we look in on them in just a minute. Right after this message you'll want to hear. Let's go, firefighters! Let's join Chief Cody and rookie fireman Tim Collins in that top-floor bedroom filled with smoke from the charred mattress. Only a moment ago, from the open skylight in the roof, Tim and his chemical extinguisher had done their job. And then the two men had dropped down into the room and unlocked the door. Now they have a perfect sample of the mystery fires which Tim has been investigating as a special assignment. So far, the only thing Tim and his younger brother Jimmy had discovered was the strange item that all these unexplained blazes seem to have had in common. In each case, they involved a mattress. And now, as Chief Cody digs into this one with his knife, Tim and Jimmy watch closely, hoping for the answer at last.
Be careful you don't burn your hand, Chief, ripping that mattress apart. It's still pretty hot.
Don't worry, Jimmy. You see these burned holes in the covering, Tim? Several of them.
Yes, sir. No question about it. This fire started right inside that mattress. You find anything in there?
Cotton filling, springs, exactly what's supposed to be in it.
Oh.
Not a thing that shouldn't be here.
Well, then none of these fires could have been set by a firebug.
Oh, there are ways of setting fires where no evidence is left, Jimmy, but, well, we're farther away than ever from any answer.
No, we're moving closer, son. We got this one out in time to find out where the mattress came from.
Yeah, see that tag the Chief is pointing to, Tim?
Oh, let me see it. Clement's department store.
Oh, gosh, I know him. Mr. Clement. I used to run errands for him after school.
What's he like, Jimmy?
Well, gee, like everyone else, he seemed like an awful swell guy to me. Why?
Oh, I just wondered. We'll check further, Tim. If the mattresses in each of these mystery fires came from Mr. Clement's, we'll have to have a talk with him. Yeah, a very serious talk.
Oh, but he wouldn't put something in his mattresses that would go off in flames and put people in danger?
We certainly didn't find anything. You agree, Tim? You've been poking about inside it.
Chief Cody, this is just plain cotton, I'm positive. There's no reason in the world why it should burst into flames by itself.
But these mystery fires have got to stop before something tragic happens, Tim.
I know, sir. What the dickens can we do?
If these fire-breathing mattresses all came from the same place, I've got a special errand for you, Tim.
Yes, sir.
While you're taking care of that, Jimmy and I'll go to see his friend, Mr. Clement. If he knows the answer, he'll give it to us or else.
Well, let's come right into my office, Chief Cody. You too, Jimmy. It's nice to see you again, son.
Mr. Clement, you're not going to like what I have to say. Maybe you know about the regular epidemic of mystery fires we've been having all over town.
Well, yes, I read about them in the paper. Nobody seems to know how they started.
Well, we know where they started, at least.
Well, they broke out in half a dozen widely separated places. No connection at all, unless, well, as the paper hinted, there's some crazy firebug on the loose.
When I said where they started, I didn't mean sections of the city. And if anybody set those fires, You did, sir.
I? But good heavens, what are you saying?
Mr. Clement, we've gone over every unexplained fire in the last few days. Each case seems to involve a mattress. And every doggone one of them came from your store, right here.
What? I can't believe it. What's wrong with them?
Nothing that we can see. Nothing but the ordinary cotton filling inside them, right?
Well, of course. They're my regular line of inexpensive mattresses. I've certainly never had any complaints like this before.
They couldn't have been tampered with in any way?
Gee, do you think that I or anyone in my store could reopen a mattress after it's been delivered from the manufacturer? Do you think we could insert anything that would cause fire, that wouldn't leave evidence?
Now, don't get mad, Mr. Clement. It never did seem very likely, but, well, I had to ask.
Oh, Chief, you may take my word that nothing could have been placed in those mattresses. And yet, well, never in all my experience has a cotton-filled mattress burst into flame by itself.
Oh, what's Tim bringing here that's so important, Chief? Gee, you lent him your own car so he could hurry.
He's bringing a who, Jimmy, not a what. And with that feeling I have that another mattress fire could break out for no reason at all, well, he'd better hurry.
Well, I must say, Private Collins, I never dreamed to be speeding through the streets in Chief Cody's own car one day.
I never dreamed I'd be driving it, Dr. Curtis, with an important industrial chemist like yourself sitting beside me.
Well, I must say I feel more at home in a laboratory than a department store. I hope I can help you.
Well, if you can solve the mystery of those mattresses...
Well, offhand, Collins, there's absolutely no reason why an average, normal cotton mattress should burst into flames. At that stage, spontaneous combustion is out of the question.
I know, Dr. Curtis, but I've looked into the reports of half a dozen of these mystery fires. Been in on 3 firsthand.
A mattress turned up each time?
Yes, sir. A porch burned. A mattress was airing on the roof. A bedroom, the fire started near the bed. And a moving van that was unloading household things. And a boys' camp where they'd taken their cots out for inspection.
And this last fire, you and Chief Cody saw the burning mattress with your own eyes?
Yes, sir, Dr. Curtis. It's the only explanation, and, well, yet it's no explanation at all.
Well, you did a good job of investigation, Collins, discovering the point they all had in common.
Only? You mean, sir, the Chief and I overlooked something?
I don't know. But these fires have something else in common. Something that likely you would only occur to an industrial chemist like myself.
Oh, good grief. What's that, sir?
Well, I shouldn't say. As a scientist, I'd better look at the evidence first.
Oh, now I can't wait to get to the department store, Dr. Curtis.
Well, at the rate you firemen drive, Collins, it shouldn't be long. However, it's just as well. On such a lovely warm day as this, we can't get there too fast.
Almost before Tim has a chance to be startled at the odd way Dr. Curtis mentions the pleasant weather and the need for speed in the same breath, the Clements department store sign comes in view down the street. A few moments later, the men are gathered in the back room of the store. The industrial chemist, the store owner, young Jimmy, and our firefighting friends. All of them standing by with serious expressions as Dr. Curtis quickly slices open the mattress with a sharp instrument.
Now you can see for yourself why we're so puzzled, Dr. Curtis. Is there anything besides plain cotton filling, besides the springs, of course, in that mattress?
Doesn't seem to be, Chief Cody. That's a fact.
Hundreds of these mattresses have passed through my store, Doctor, and I've never had any trouble like this.
Strange. You're sure, Mr. Clement, that this particular one I'm opening is part of the same lot as the others that caused these fires?
Yes, I'm positive. It's a recent shipment. But how by themselves they could have caused a fire?
Well, they did. Take my word for it. Well.
Oh, gee whiz, do you see something through that magnifying glass you're using, Dr. Curtis?
Be quiet, Jimmy. Don't bother him while he's...
That's all right, Collins. I could see the answer even without the glass. But I just wanted to make absolutely sure.
You got the answer already?
Oh, yes. It's quite simple, Chief. At the same time, a very rare and unusual... Great Scott. Mr. Clement, how many of the mattresses from this shipment have you sold? Or, more important, how many have you delivered to your customers to their homes?
Well, let me see, about 30, I'd say, Dr. Curtis.
Do you have a list of the names and locations?
Well, I could get them together in about 5 minutes.
Well, cut that in half if you can. Then get every delivery truck available out to pick them up and bring them in.
Well, if it's that important, Dr. Curtis, I could order out some of the fire department trucks and men to help.
That's excellent. Those mattresses might be safe for days. On the other hand, A certain combination of events can cause more of those mystery fires of yours, Chief.
Okay, hop to it, Tim.
No, wait a minute. One more question. Mr. Clement, about 30 of these mattresses have gone out of your store. Was that the entire shipment?
No, I probably have nearly 70 left.
Here in the store?
No, we need the space. They were taken back to the warehouse this morning.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably lying out in front of it this minute.
Lying out in front of the warehouse?
Yes. It's such a lovely day, we thought it wise to make sure they were thoroughly dry before storing them away.
That does it. You take care of picking up your customers' mattresses. Chief Cody, let's get down to that warehouse at once.
You mean we may have another fire on our hands? Another mystery fire?
It's no mystery to me, sir. But you have exactly the same set of circumstances you had for all those other fires.
Well, then this is no time for talk. What we need is action. Let's roll.
One man holds the answer to the dangerous mattress mystery. But it will have to wait until the new emergency they've caused is over. If you want to know the answer as well as what happened at this point, well, don't miss your next exciting episode of The Firefighters. In a moment, Chief Bob Cody will tell you, boys and girls, how you can help the firefighters in your own town. But first, a message you ought to hear. Now, Chief Bob Cody with a special notice for the Firefighters Brigade. Chief Cody.
Attention, firefighters. This is Chief Cody back with a special assignment for you boys and girls. Check all the lamps in your house. Not the wiring, you know about that. And any trouble there is a job for your parents. Check the bulb and the shade. Make sure there's no contact. That the bulb does not touch any lampshade made of cloth, paper, or other combustible material. Well, that's all. Till next time, this is Chief Cody saying, so long.
Fire Chief Cody and the young rookie fireman Tim Collins will be back again on the same station the next time you hear...
I said, let's go!
Let's go! Firefighters!
Fatima Cigarettes. Best of all king-size cigarettes brings you Dragnet on both radio and television. You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to vice detail. A professional gambling ring has set up operations in your city. Dozens of citizens are being victimized. The gamblers keep on the move, changing their locations day to day. Your job? Get them. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
Yes, compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Fatima gives you more for your money.
And in king-size Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes. Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Monday, February 9th. It was foggy in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of vice detail. My partner's Bill Lockwood. The boss is Lieutenant Bingham. My name's Friday. It was 4:20 p.m. when I got to the second floor of the old Central Jail building. Vice detail.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, Bill. You show up yet?
Yeah, waiting in the next room.
Oh, fine. Did you talk to him yet?
No, he just came in a couple of minutes ago. Figured I'd wait for you.
Well, how's he seem? Sober? Looks like he's off the leash?
Yeah, he looks pretty good. Shaved, cleaned up a little.
Fine. Dave, how are you?
Oh, hiya, Friday. Thought I'd drop by and see. Remember you were talking to me last week about that thing.
You hear anything, Dave?
Yeah, I think I might have something for you. I think it's what you're looking for. Tried to get you on the phone last night. You weren't in.
Well, you should have left a message.
Oh, I didn't want to do that. You know how it is. Guess I shouldn't even be coming up here like this.
You got some kind of a permanent address, Dave? Phone number? Someplace we can contact you?
No, I'm still floating around a little.
Mm-hmm. Now, about this thing we were talking about, what'd you hear?
I picked up a little chatter. I think it's what you want. Say, you fellas had your coffee. I haven't had mine. What'd you say?
Okay, how about the place down the corner?
Fine with me.
All right, if you want to check us out, Bill, tell them we'll be back in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, fine.
Thank you. All right, Dave, we walk this way.
Okay. You're looking pretty good, Friday. World treating you okay?
Well, I can't complain, I guess. Go ahead.
Thank you. Guess we better wait for your partner, huh? What's his name?
Lockwood.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Skipper's got something for us when we get back, Joe.
All right.
You're looking pretty good yourself, Lockwood. Yeah, real good.
You seem to be in pretty fair shape. That pocket's full of change sounds healthy.
That's not too good. Still got a few dimes to rattle. Hasn't been coming too fast lately.
You still setting pins down there at that bowling alley?
Yeah, A lot of help hanging around, though. We really got to hustle for it.
That's so.
Oh, yeah. A lot of the alley's changing over to those automatic machines, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Quite a few guys out. A lot of the machines can set pins better than a man can.
Hi, Matthews. How are you?
Hi, Joe. Hi, Bill. What do you say, Jack?
Yeah. Who's that guy?
He works out of the office. Why?
Nothing. I thought I'd seen him around. Yeah.
No, down this way, Dave. Just a couple of doors.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, did you hear anything about Tony? You know if he's in town?
No, I've been working on it. It's Dirty Tony. He's not going to show.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, why don't you two grab the back table? I'll order up.
All right, fine, Bill.
Black with sugar, huh?
All right. Cream and sugar for you, Joe?
Yeah, that's fine. Bring a couple of those jelly donuts, would you?
Okay.
All right. Well, what's the story, Dave? What do you hear?
Well, I heard about it last night, right after I left the alley. You told me to keep my ears open, you know.
Yeah.
Said you figured there might be something on that new bunch hanging around the bar down from the alley. You figured they might tie in with a new bunch of high rollers in town.
Yeah. What'd you pick up?
I think you figured right, from what I heard anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go. Have a donut, Dave?
Oh, yeah, thanks. You make a fine waiter, Lockwood.
Thanks. We don't get a lead pretty soon. I may have to take it up.
Dave was just telling me that he figures he might have something for us. He picked it up at the spot down from the alleys last night.
Well, like I said, after I was through at the alleys, I stopped by the place and had a couple of beers. Can't afford anything else. A few nickels they pay me. Lucky to get enough to eat the way things are going.
Yeah, it's pretty rough, I know. Well, what's the pitch you got, Dave?
Well, I was sitting there having a beer and a couple of those new faces were sitting next to me. So I put my ear out and tried to pick up some of the talk.
Yeah.
I couldn't get all of it, but I did get enough to make out there's going to be a big game tonight. From what I could get, there's going to be a lot of scraps floating around.
You hear what it's going to be, Dave?
I had to play it careful, you know. Couldn't be too nosy.
Okay.
I sat and had another beer, and one of the new monks heard the other guy call him Mike, I think. He asked the bartender for change to make a phone call. He got the change, went over the wall phone. I got up and drifted over that way. He made out like I was watching the shuffleboard. I caught some of his talk.
Yeah, what was that?
Well, he was talking about some big game tonight. I heard him say to the guy on the other end not to show up before 11:30.
To get an address?
Yeah, Said he'd be back of an empty store building down on Gibbons Avenue.
You get a number?
9122.
What was that again? 9122, is that right?
Yeah.
Gibbons, huh?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. As soon as I get out of the place, I wrote it down. Wait a minute. I got it. Let's see. Yeah, 9122 Gibbons. That's it.
Now, this fellow that made the phone call, you say his name was Mike, is that right?
Yeah, that's what I heard his partner call him. He's kind of a short guy, like 35, 36 on the fat side, black hair.
Mike Filmer.
You know him?
Yeah, we've had an eye on him. Thought he might figure in.
Not about the size of it, Dave? That all you heard?
Yeah, that's about it, Friday. As soon as he finished the phone call and his partner left, I finished my beer and left, too. I had to. Couldn't afford another one. Real tough these days.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, Dave. Really appreciate it.
Well, don't mention it. You've always done all right by me. Donut sure tasted great. Still hungry. Hey, I feel I could take on a 3-inch steak.
I'm sorry things aren't better for you, Dave. How about a 10 spot? Will that help you any?
It sure will, Friday. Thanks a lot, huh? You really can use it.
Well, I'm glad to help you. You're always helping us.
You sure make it nice. I mean, you make it nice and easy on a guy.
How do you mean?
Well, it's always there first. I never have to come right out and ask.
Okay.
Good, though. You always get the pitch, don't you?
Almost a month before, we had begun receiving complaints about a newly established gambling ring which had set up operations in the city. After the first few complaints, we succeeded in identifying some of the men involved in the ring and also some of the places they frequented. The nature of most of the complaints against them was such that we knew we were dealing with a well-organized criminal element. Even if a player happened to win at one of the games, after he left the location, he was beaten and robbed. Despite the fact that we had some of the suspects identified, we still lacked sufficient evidence to prosecute them successfully. The various victims either would not or could not identify the suspect. We knew the gang was running 3 or 4 games a week, each one of them at a different location, each one of them at a different time. In the trade, that's known as a floating game. After we left our informant, Dave Carter, we headed back to the office and briefed Lieutenant Bingham. That afternoon, we checked the address on Gibbons Avenue and found it to be a vacant store building with a for rent sign in the window. There was an entrance in front and one in the rear, windows along both sides of the building, and a plasterboard partition dividing the inside of the store into 2 parts. The place was deserted. At 10 o'clock that night, Bill Lockwood and I staked out in our car down the street from the store. Sergeant Fred Taylor and Jack Matthews were staked out in their car from another point of observation. We were in constant touch with each other by 3-way radio. 10:30, 11 p.m., 11:30.
1K87 to 1K80, come in.
1K80 to 1K87, go ahead.
Joe, did you notice the lights come on at the back of the store a minute ago?
Yeah, 2 men. They went in the back way, parked their car just down the street from us here. You see anything else?
Car just pulled up down the street from us. 2 men getting out, heading for the store. Joe, just a minute. Yeah, they're going that way. They're going around the back, Joe. Looks like it's going to pay off. Let's sit on it a while. KMA 367.
We waited. 11:45. A blue pickup truck pulled up and stopped a short way from the front entrance to the store. We saw 2 men get out and go around to the back of the truck and unload half a dozen large boxes, which they carried around to the rear entrance of the place. One of the men came back, got in the cab of the truck, and sat there. Midnight, 12:15 a.m. Over a period of half an hour, we watched 18 persons arrive from different directions and enter the store from the rear. 12:30, 1 a.m. There were no new arrivals. We waited.
1K87 to 1K80, come in.
1K80 to 1K87, go ahead.
Not much activity down here, Joe. Looks like it's pretty well set. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we might as well hit it. Same way we laid it out, huh, Fred? We'll wait until Matthews picks up the lookout, the man sitting in the truck.
Right, Joe. Jack, you want to go ahead and grab him, go away. He's on his way, Joe.
Okay, as soon as he picks him up, we meet in front of the place. Bill and I'll take the front. You cover the back. You got that?
Okay, Joe. Oh, hold on a minute, will you? Yeah, Jack got him. Bring him back to the car.
Okay, let's go. KMA 367. Got the car keys, Joe?
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
You figure that's the best way, Joe, too, was going in the front?
Well, that's probably where the rush is going to be. When Fred goes through the back, they're sure to start for the front.
Okay, Joe?
Yeah.
Jack's got the lookout in our car. He'll wait for us.
Right. Now, what do you think about this, Fred? You go around and hit the back door. As soon as I hear you inside, they'll probably start for the front. We'll take care of them there.
That's a good idea. Give me half a minute to get back there.
Right. Watch yourself.
All right, Joe.
Let's go.
We're still going, not wise to it.
Yeah, let's hold it right there.
Police officer, you're under arrest now. Hold it right there.
Come on, Bill. Let's hit it.
Back, Joe.
Yeah, come on.
All right, get back there, Walter. Get back. Police officer.
Come on, back against the wall.
Going out the window, Joe. Fred. I think get back against the wall, all of you.
All right, I'll cover him. You get back and see what happens to Fred.
Right.
All right, mister. With the rest of them there. Back against the wall.
All right, I'm going. What's the beef about anyway? Just
All right,
having a
all
little
of you.
game?
Turn around. Face the wall. Put your hands against the wall.
What's the pitch anyway? Treating us like a bunch of thieves. You're just having a little fun. No harm done.
Joe. Yeah, did you find Fred? What happened?
He's been shot, hurt bad. Matthews is in with him now. I'll call the ambulance. Get some help.
All right, you two. In with the others. Back against the wall.
What's the beef? Sure, a big noise about nothing. We're here to play a little cards, friendly game, just $1 limit. Nobody ever gets hurt. We're all friends.
Is that why you carry guns? 1:20 a.m. The ambulance arrived, and Sergeant Fred Taylor was taken immediately to Georgia Street Receiving Hospital in a critical condition. He'd been shot twice through the upper portion of the chest. He'd been unconscious from the time of the shooting. Who the assailant was, we had no idea. The crime lab arrived at the scene and began their preliminary investigation. Meantime, homicide officers had arrived, and all units in the area were assisting in the investigation, making a house-to-house canvass and checking all backyards, alleys, and unoccupied buildings for possible suspects in hiding. Out of the total number of men present in the store at the time of the shooting, Bill and I had been able to detain 9 of them. The remainder had either scrambled outside windows or the rear door and then apparently made their way over back fences. The 9 we did get were taken downtown for interrogation. All of them had been searched, but no weapons had been found. Bill Lockwood and I remained at the scene assisting the homicide officers. 2:05 a.m. An additional 4 men who'd been present at the gambling game that night were picked up in the area transported downtown and held along with the other 9 at homicide detail. 2:20 a.m. Bill and I were called downtown to assist in the questioning. We got nowhere with the first 3 suspects. It was the same with the 4th.
You expect us to believe that, Mike? Well, it's the truth. I don't know anything about it.
Now, look, Mike, let's put it on the table, huh? We listened to your line of chatter down at the store when we made the pinch. We heard it all. Now, let's get on to facts.
I told you everything I know, no different than the other guys you picked up. I heard there was going to be a game tonight, so I came down.
Who'd you come down with? How'd you get there?
I drove, came by myself.
Where'd you park your car?
About 2 blocks away, a little alley there. By a gas station.
You're a liar, mister, and you know it.
Well, it's the truth, so help me. If I knew there was going to be trouble, I wouldn't even have showed up. I'd play a few cards, sure. I don't go in for heavy stuff, though. I haven't got anything to do with the game.
You're a liar.
You can't say that. Now, you show me where I've lied to. You tell me.
We were staked out on that place tonight, Mike. It was a little past 11:45. You drove up in a blue pickup truck. Another man was with you. You were driving.
Oh, no, you got it wrong.
No, we haven't got it wrong. You parked that truck about 10 yards down the street from the front of the store. You got out first. The other man followed you. You unloaded 6 large cartons from the truck. Some of the equipment we found on the store. You took it around back and into the rear door, didn't you?
You got it wrong. It wasn't me. It couldn't have been me.
Come off it, Mike. The man you were with, we've got him down the hall. The other officers have talked to him. He gave him the straight story.
But I didn't come with any other guy. Now, will you listen to me? I knew some of them there. I'll admit that. I came by myself.
Now, you listen to me, mister. You get this through your head. Get it once and for all. This isn't a gambling beef anymore. Somebody's been shot. He's been hurt bad.
Well, that's not my fault. I didn't shoot him. I don't know anything about it.
You know more than you're telling. You lied about coming there in that truck. We saw you. Something else. The truck's been checked out. It's registered in your name. Now, you come up with an answer for that one fast.
Well, I don't get it. Maybe my truck is down there. If it is, I don't know how it got there.
You're in a jam, Mike. This isn't any misdemeanor rap. I think the sooner you realize that, the better it's going to be
Look,
for you.
You don't have to tell me it's serious. I know that. Now, what do you want from me anyway?
You know what we want. You know the answers, and we want them. You're part of that gambling setup. We know that. We know who was there tonight. Everybody. We want the names of every one of them. Now, either you got the answer to that shooting or somebody in that crowd had. We're going to get the answer, Mike. Don't make any mistake about it. We're going to get it.
Now, what do I have to say to convince you you're talking to the wrong guy?
Not according to the man they got down the hall, the one in the pickup truck with you. He gave us the whole story. You hired him to help you tonight. You were going to pay him $20. He helped you haul the equipment to the store, and he was supposed to be the lookout at the front door. It ties in all the way. How about it?
All right. Now, you've been calling people liars, huh? Well, he's the liar. The whole lousy story is nothing but a lie.
All right, keep quiet. Friday talking. Oh, yes, sir. Oh, all right. Yeah. Yes, thank you. Now, you listen, Mike. Here's a piece of advice. You make up your mind.
Now, how do you mean make up my mind? I'm trying to cooperate. You don't believe me. I'm trying to help you out every way I can. I'm only too glad to give you a hand. I know you got a tough job. You got my
Now, don't you worry about us, mister. From here in, start worrying about yourself. You're going to do a lot of it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That policeman, he just died.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
To show our confidence in Fatima, we make this money-back guarantee.
Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos.
If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952, for your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Prove Fatima quality yourself. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Fatima gives you more for your money.
And in king-size Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Ask your dealer for Fatima in the bright sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Tuesday, February 10th, 5:30 a.m. Sergeant Fred Taylor had died at approximately 5:22 a.m. Cause of death was listed as hemorrhage and shock due to the 2 gunshot wounds in the chest. Officers from the medical detail had rushed Taylor's wife from his home to the receiving hospital. She was with him at the time of his death. Unfortunately, he never regained consciousness. 5:45 a.m. While the investigation went on at the scene of the murder, Bill Lockwood and I continued our interrogation of the suspect, Mike Filmer. Another hour of questioning, and he still refused to tell us anything. We finally confronted him with the man we'd seen him arrive with at the location of the gambling game earlier that morning. Another 10 minutes of questioning, and he finally broke down.
Why didn't you tell us that to begin with?
Well, believe me, I wanted to. I was scared. I was scared to death. I never had anything like this happen to me before. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say.
All right, this is a complete list of everybody you saw there last night. Everybody was in that game.
Well, yeah, I think it covers it. Now, let me see it.
All right, here you are.
Huh? Yeah, just about everybody. These are the only addresses you got, just these three here. Yeah, that's it. No, I'm not lying now, believe me. Those are the only ones I know of.
All right, so you had a hand in the game. You brought in the equipment, you were working for the house.
Yeah, that's right.
Then who's the boss, Mike? Who's running the game?
What about it? Who's running it? Look, I've told you everybody that was there, everybody. He wasn't there that night. He couldn't have had anything to do with it.
Mike, we didn't ask you that. We asked you who the boss is. What's his name? Now, how about it? We want his name.
But I told you he wasn't there last night. If he wasn't there, he couldn't have had anything to do with it. Look, he's a nice guy. He doesn't want trouble any more than I do. He couldn't tell you.
You let us figure that out, will you? Now, who's the boss, Mike?
Does it have to be? Is that important?
We wouldn't be asking you. Who is he?
George Delano. Now, that's all I know about him, his name. How does he spell his last name? What's he look like? Well, I guess it's Delano. I never saw him write it down, though. I've only known him about a month, maybe 5 weeks. What's his description? Well, he's taller than I am, about 5 feet 10, 11 maybe. Dark hair. A little bit on the heavy side. Like me, I guess. Man about 45, 50.
Where does he live? Where do we find him?
I don't know where he lives. Some hotel downtown, I think. The only times I ever met him was at a bar.
Which bar? Where about?
South end of town. Down in Vermont. I don't know the address, but I can point it out to you. It's a couple of doors down from Big Bowling Alley. Right across from a theater. Woman's dress shop next door. Yeah, that's right. That's the place. The only place I've ever seen him. He always calls me at home and tells me where to meet him.
You mean to say you've been working for this Delano and you don't even know where he lives?
Well, I don't know what else to tell you. I'm squaring with you. I really don't know. Friday, talk to you, man?
Yeah, sir. I'll be right back now. What do you got, Sam?
Charlie Hart and I just got back from the place down on Gibbons Avenue, the store.
Yeah.
Thought you'd like to know. We found a gun in the back of the place hidden under a lumber pile.
All right. Did you check it out?
Yeah, I ran through gun records. It's registered.
What's the name?
George Delano.
7:38 a.m. With the new lead on the alleged boss of the gambling ring, George Delano, we interrupted our questioning of the suspect, Mike Filmer. We took him down the hall back to the homicide squad room to be held for further interrogation. We checked Delano through R&I, but we had no record on him. Then, along with Sergeant Sam Flowers and Charlie Hart of Homicide, we drove out to the address of George Delano as listed in the gun registration files. It was a small cottage in the Wilshire area. The woman who answered the door identified herself as Mrs. George Delano, the suspect's wife. She called her husband to the door. We identified ourselves, briefed him on the reason for our visit, and told him we wanted to talk to him downtown. He appeared cooperative, more than willing to come along. He got dressed. We drove him back to the city hall and took him to the interrogation room. He was well-dressed and, in his own way, well-mannered. After being told of the situation, he admitted freely that he'd been operating games at different locations throughout the city for the past month and a half. He told us that he'd employed Mike Filmer to assist him in his operations, and he also admitted ownership of the gun found near the murder scene. The gun had since been checked by Russ Camp and ballistics and found to be the murder weapon.
Well, yes, it's my gun, but I'd like to explain a little bit about it.
What's that, Delano?
Well, number one, I admit I'm a gambler. That's my racket. I'm new to Los Angeles. I even admit I've been working a few games, but I'm no murderer. I wouldn't have any part of it.
You said you were going to explain about the gun. Now, what about it?
Now, look, I'd like to fill you in on everything, officers. I got nothing to hide from you. I'll tell you everything.
Now?
When I first came to this town, as I say, it's been about 5-6 weeks, I made a few connections, and I started running these games. For the first couple of weeks, everything went fine. No beefs, everything was fine. All I had to do was dodge you fellas, and then the trouble started.
How do you mean?
You mind if I have a smoke? A little upset.
All right, go ahead.
You care for one?
No, thanks.
Yeah. I want to fill you in from the start. I want to clear this whole thing up.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah. Well, as I told you, first few weeks, everything was fine. Then one night when the game was just about ready to break, a couple of punks came in, held us up. They cleaned everybody in the place, made a big haul.
When was this? Where did it happen?
Down on the east side. Punks took us for everything. You know how it is. Couldn't make a report to you. I just had to take it, cover the losses myself.
Yeah, now how about that gun?
I'm coming to it. This thing happens, and I figure that's the end of it. But no, a couple nights later, they hit again. I still can't squat. I have to stand the losses. Another couple nights, they knock us over again. Couldn't do a thing about it. Losing money.
All right, we've heard all that. That's your racket. You can expect it. All we want to know is about that gun. Now, what's your story?
I told you I was coming to it. After the third time they reached us, I hired a guard. Somebody stand watch outside in case of another stick-up. It's the only thing I could do.
Yeah?
Well, so I hired some guy to stand guard on the game. Loaned him my gun in case there was any trouble.
And you told him to use it in case there was trouble.
Yeah, that's right.
How about a raid from the police? You tell him to use it for that?
No. Matter of fact, I made a point of telling him about that. All he was supposed to use the gun for was just to fire it up in the air, maybe scare those punks off and warn the guys inside at the same time.
We'll talk about that later, Delano. We want to know who had the gun last night.
Well, the guard did. I told you I loaned him the gun.
Who's the guard? What's his name? Where do we find him?
His name's Jake. A friend of mine got him for me. See, Jake Gleason. That's his Gleason.
Where's he live?
Couldn't tell you that. I don't know. I always contacted him at a bar in South Vermont, place I go quite a bit. Be a little too early to catch him there now.
What do you know about this Gleason? What's he look like?
No, I don't know. I haven't seen him much. I guess he'd say he's about 32, 33. Kind of light brown hair, tall. Ex-con, I think. Either he told me or somebody told me he did time.
You knew he was an ex-con and you gave him your gun.
Well, yeah, but I didn't tell him to shoot anybody. I made a point of telling him that. The dumb jerk, especially shooting a cop. All he was supposed to do was fire up in the air if those punks came around, scare him away. To help me, that's the only time he was supposed to use a gun. I told him that.
Not much of a story, Delano. Can you prove it?
Sure, I can prove it. You can ask Mike Filmer. He'll tell you the same thing. You can ask Gleason himself. The dumb jerk. Mike said he wasn't too sharp, a little punchy, wasn't quite right in the head.
What's that?
I said he was a little punchy, wasn't quite right in the head, Gleason.
You mean you met him in a bar? You didn't know anything about his background. You knew he was an ex-con. You had an idea he wasn't too sharp. Maybe he wasn't all there. Is that right?
Yeah, that's about it.
And you put this man in the spot where you knew he'd be in trouble, and then you gave him a gun. Is that right? How about it, Delano?
What are you looking at me for? I told the dumb jerk what to do. I didn't tell him to shoot anybody. Punch drunk boozer.
Yeah.
It's truth. I didn't have a thing to do with it. I hired the guy, that's all. It's not my fault. What are you looking at? I wasn't even there. I didn't even know about it. I didn't kill that cop.
Didn't you? 9:23 a.m. We continued questioning George Delano. He told us that he'd instructed Jake Gleason, the ex-convict, to stand guard at the rear of the store where the gambling games were held. He insisted that his instructions to Gleason were that if he had to fire the gun at all, he was to fire it in the air, and then only as a warning signal in case of robbery attempt. Delano was detained by homicide officers pending further investigation. We checked the name and description of Jake Gleason through R&I and found his record and mugshot. We showed the mug to Delano, and he identified it. Gleason's record showed him to be on active parole. 10:30 a.m., we contacted the parole office. They gave us his address, and Bill and I checked it out, a second-rate hotel on South Flower Street. The manager told us Gleason had left the hotel about 7:45 that morning and that he was not expected back until after 6 o'clock that night. He also told us there was a chance we might locate him in one of the bars around the neighborhood. 10:45. We started making the rounds of the bars in the immediate vicinity. The third place we stopped at was practically deserted. The jukebox at the back of the place was turned up to full volume. There was a smell of disinfectant, whiskey, and stale perfume. There was one customer drinking at the far end of the bar. It was Gleason.
Stand up, police officer.
All right. Take him down, Bill.
Clean, Joe.
All right. Hands in back of you. Yeah, you want to kill that jukebox, Bill?
Yeah.
All right, you know why we want you.
Yeah, I know. I knew there wasn't any sense running. I knew you'd be around. All right, let's go. Could you do me a favor? Wait a minute, just a minute.
Yeah?
Just like to tell you, I didn't mean it. I guess it's my own fault. I shot him. I shouldn't have had the gun. Shouldn't have taken the job. I shot him. I didn't mean it.
All right, come on.
There ought to be a way, don't you think? There really ought to be a way.
What's that?
I didn't mean it. No reason to kill him. I didn't even know him. I just keep thinking there's only a way if I could take it back again, you know?
Yeah, we know.
If I could go back and change it, make it all different. Right from the beginning, I wouldn't even look at a gun. I'd change everything. I bet I would. I wouldn't even look at a gun. If I only had the chance, you know? Second chance. There ought to be a way. Second chance.
You started with a gun, Jay.
Yeah?
You never had a first one.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On May 22nd, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 88, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
And now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, Fatima gives you more for your money because no other king-size cigarette can match Fatima quality. Because Fatima's length filters and cools the smoke for your protection. Gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size. I'm convinced that you'll agree with me once you try them. Get a pack of Fatimas next time you buy cigarettes. Fatima, an extra mild and soothing smoke. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Jacob Allen Gleason was tried and convicted of murder in the first degree and was sentenced to a life term in the state penitentiary. George Delano, Mike Filmer, and all other principals were found guilty of violating the municipal code 43.01, gambling, and received sentences as prescribed by law. George Delano and Mike Filmer were sentenced to 6-month terms in the county jail. Others received proportionate sentences.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. James Fox, Director on the Executive Board of the Mystery Writers of America.
Tonight it is with a great deal of pleasure that I, speaking for the entire membership of the Mystery Writers of America in all fields, present the Edgar Allan Poe Award for the second consecutive year for the finest radio presentation in its class, Dragnet. To you, Jack Webb, and your fine group of technicians responsible for the overall production of Dragnet, we present this statuette of one of the immortals in the field of mystery, Edgar Allan Poe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fox, and thanks also to the membership of the Mystery Writers of America.
And standing by to receive his award, also for the second consecutive year, as the outstanding radio writer in his field, and for the consistent job he does on Dragnet, Jim Moser. Here is your statuette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fox.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's seldom indeed when the writer of any radio show receives his just and due acclaim. It's with the greatest of pleasure that we accept the Edgar Allan Poe Awards, as it is primarily a writer's award. All of us who have had a hand in bringing Dragnet into your homes each week are proud of our writer, Jim Moser. For as anyone in radio will readily go on record by saying and knowing that you're only as good as the script you read. So it's with deep gratitude that we receive the MWA Award, which best illustrates and confirms the high opinion which we all hold of our writer, Jim Moser.
Thank you, Jack, and I'd like to express my special appreciation to our technical advisors from the Los Angeles Police Department, without whom none of this would be possible.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Frazier. Heard tonight were Martin Milner, Eddie Firestone, Whit Connor. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles. Now, it's Counter Spy on NBC.
Jeff Regan, Investigator. Mr. Regan?
Huh?
You are Mr. Regan, the detective?
Yeah.
Please, Mr. Regan, I need your help. Could you help me?
I'm afraid I didn't get the name.
I am Romano. Elio Romano.
Oh, sit down, Mr. Romano.
Thank you.
Suppose you tell me about your problem. You're needing help, Mr. Romano.
Oh, yes, Mr. Regan, it's true. I do need help. My store, it's my store.
Store.
I have a small grocery store. It's on 6th Street. We have a big new neon sign. My someone is trying to destroy my store.
Now we're making headway. Tell me about the someone.
I don't know this is someone. If I should get my hands on them,
my windows?
No. They tried to burn it down. They tried to burn my store.
When?
Last week, Thursday.
Did you call the police?
Yes.
And then what?
Well, they said there was accident. They said I did this to my own store. Ma questa è una cosa che... Oh, mamma mia.
And you're sure it was no accident?
Mr. Regan, would I destroy the one thing Maria and I have given our lives to make? Would I so much as harm a single little glass window? No, I would not.
Where'd the fire start?
In the back room where the cans are stored.
What time of day?
Night. It was at night. My Maria and I, we sleep above the store. My Maria smelled the smoke, and together we put out the fire before the damage could become great.
Mm-hmm. That's the only time it happened?
No. The day before that, I found a light match in the waste basket. It was just as I was closing for the night. Well, I stopped this one very quick.
2 nights in a row. You're right, Romano. It doesn't look very accidental.
Oh, believe me, Mr. Regan, I would never do this to my store. Never.
Okay, Romano. I believe you. Suppose you and I run out there. Take a look. The little man with the wrinkled brow got in the car beside me, and we drove out 6th Street, past Alvarado, past Union. We passed in front of a small grocery store with a big neon sign over the door. Sign said very proudly, Romano's. And my client, Romano, glanced at it, nodded approvingly, and we walked in.
Oh, Amy, are you back to save me?
That foolish woman. Of course I'm back to save you.
This is Mr. Regan, the detective.
See.
Mr. Regan, my wife, Maria. You're a very foolish woman.
Twice better to mad.
How do you do, Miss Romano?
The pig of a husband. If you worry about him and his first dose, he's call you foolish. If you do not worry about him, he's sure you don't care.
Mr. Regan, please, come with me. Right away, I'll show you where the fire starts. Please, come with me.
Romano led me into a small back room behind the counter.
There were shelves filled with canned goods and paper cartons. He showed me the waste paper basket near the door. Easy to flash a match in through the window above it that opened onto the alley. There were a few charred pieces of wood here and there, but very little damage had been done. Still, if everything Romano said was true, it didn't look like an accident. It was while he was pointing out that he burnt wood that a customer came in the front door. I moved over toward the doorway and listened.
Well, we'll see about that when I tell my neighbors.
Then the things began to get interesting. I looked out. Plump, smug-looking woman, carrying a heavy purse, her eyes glaring behind rimless glasses.
That's your idea, eh? To force as many people in here as you can? Well, there certainly must be some law against people like you. I just wanted to make sure, that's all. And I must say I got what I came for.
What was that all about, Mrs. Romano?
Oh, Mr. Regan, you heard.
Maria, what does she say to you? Quiet, Romano.
Mr. Regan is right, Elio. It was enough.
It didn't sound like nothing, Mrs. Romano. What do you mean by tell my neighbors?
No, we will not talk of it.
We will talk of it. Mr. Regan, this woman, this is Mrs. Wilson. She used to be our best customer. Then she turned on us. She tells all her friends not to come to our store.
Why?
Why? Because... Now, who knows why?
Oh, you have started it. Now you will finish, Elio. She does not buy from us because we would not let her tell us how to run our store.
See, that's all there is to it? When did it start?
A week ago.
Oh? Same time the fire started.
See, the same... But, Mr. Regan, you don't...
You hide in the sink, Romano. I'll see you later.
Mr. Regan, where you go?
To talk to Mrs. Wilson. If I moved fast, I could find Mrs. Wilson. If I could find her, I could talk to her. She had answers, plenty of them. Plenty more than the Romanos gave her credit for. And then I saw her, a block away, walking fast. I followed. Around the corner, she turned up a walk and disappeared into a two-story apartment house. I was right behind her. The mailbox out front said 208, and when I got there, the door was just closed. Now.
Yes?
Can I talk to you for a minute?
Young man, if you're selling
I'm not
something...
selling anything.
Then what do you want?
Just a couple of questions, Mrs. Wilson, about the Romanos.
Oh, so that's your game, is it? You're trying
I'm
to
not trying
tell
to
me...
tell you anything. We'd just better talk now, for your own good.
You go back and tell those people we don't want them around here. We don't want them in our neighborhood. Is that clear?
That's as good a place to start as any, and I will just...
Oh, no, you don't. You're not coming in without a warrant. I knew you were a policeman right away. They called you, those Romanos. Just like them to take advantage of our Constitution. But I know my rights as a citizen.
Lady,
I haven't broken any laws, you understand? It's them that cause all the trouble, them. And we don't want their kind around here. Now, good day.
So I had nothing after all. I got in my car, drove down toward police headquarters. And it wasn't that easy. Because behind me, starting at Alvarado, was a yellow Model A Ford. A yellow hot rod, and it wasn't behind me by accident. Stayed there 2 blocks, 10 blocks, 20. And whoever sat behind the wheel didn't care if I knew it. He stayed that way until we reached the block without traffic, and then suddenly the yellow car gunned up in the rearview mirror. And I could see a young kid hunched angrily over the steering wheel, and there wasn't any doubt about what a kid like that had on his mind or what he was going to do. He moved the car up close, next to mine, and yelled something angry kids yell, and suddenly his yellow coupe shot out ahead, cut into me. As I figured, tried to run me off the street onto the sidewalk. Now the yellow coupe was just a blur in the distance. I pulled off from the curb, eased into gear, took my time driving to the police station. The police told me to check with the arson squad. The arson squad told me to check with the sergeant. And to make a rotten day just that much rottener, the sergeant turned out to be a guy I knew, named Bowles.
All right, what do you want, Regan?
Transferred from homicide, Bowles?
I don't need any of your lip today, Regan. I'm busy. What do you want?
You handle the Romano investigation?
Romano? Who's that?
It's the poor guy who happens to own a grocery store.
Romano. Yeah, I checked it out last week. For your information, this client of yours, Romano, has his grocery store well covered. You know what they call it, Regan? Fire insurance. Lots of fire insurance.
And that's what I got from Sergeant Bowles. I left the station, drove down to the top house on 3rd Street, had myself a big dinner, and tried to think. And it wasn't that easy. Ideas would fit together during the salad and go to pieces during the steak. By the time I got to dessert, it was anybody's guess. I paid the blonde waitress and drove out 6th Street, watching the streetlights go on and hoping one of them would shed some light on the problem. But when I got past Alvarado, I didn't have time to think. I stepped on the gas, drove faster. Into streets becoming crowded, alive. Into confusion and fire engines. Into shouts and smoke. A man in a car helmet directed me over to the side of the road, and I parked and got out. Walked into the excitement and confusion and heat. And into a sweaty, serious, open-collared, open-mouthed, hot-eyed, staring mob. Into a shout all around me. Hey, Joe. Hey, Edna. Hey, Pete. Come take a look. Romano's. The grocery store. Burning down, yelling and cheering, shouting. While flames licked up the store walls and around the big blue neon sign Romano had proudly shown me. And I was moving into the mob, trying to get closer, when a big burly man covered with soot and sweat shoved me aside.
Hey, stand back, will you please, mister?
Have you seen the owner?
Too many people to see anything, mister. Out of my way.
The big fireman moved on, and I followed him, letting him clear a path through the spectators, and up ahead, I could see another big man. This one I knew.
Stand back there. Oh, Regan.
Sam, have you seen Romano, the owner?
What's he look like?
A little guy, dark hair,
Stop and go, Regan. I haven't seen anybody. Better stand back. That wall's going.
Romano and his wife live in there.
Sorry, Regan. Too many people. My men can't get equipment.
Never mind.
Regan, come back there.
5 feet round shouts were lost in the crowd behind me as I moved and shoved and pushed my way around to the side of the burning grocery store. Somewhere in there was my client, Romano, and his wife, Maria. And then, stumbling out through the smoke, came a fireman. And he was dragging a man, a little man, coughing, spitting, squeezing. It was Romano.
Maria. It's the man you were looking for, mister. Maria, let me go, please. Let me go.
Romano, it's me, Regan.
Let me go in the name of God. The police will let me go, Maria. I must have got to my Maria.
You
take him, mister. I'll go back for her.
Right, I got him.
Regan. Mr. Regan. Where is she? They left to my Maria.
Take it easy, Romano. They'll get Maria.
They must have saved her. I'm going to get to Maria. I'm going to get...
I pulled the little man away from the smoke and heat and people, stretched him out on the pavement. In a few minutes, his breathing became regular and the coughing stopped, and he slept. And 10 minutes after that, the big fireman came out with Maria and placed her on the pavement beside her husband. Only Maria wasn't coughing or breathing. She was dead. The ambulance took Maria and Romano away. The fire hissed steam where the fireman's hoses poured gallons of water. And soon even the crowd had lost interest. And only the hissing steam and smoke filled the cavity that had been Romano's grocery store. Fire Chief Rand came over to me.
Did you find him, Regan, that man you were looking for?
Yeah, Rand. I found him.
Is he okay?
Yeah. Yeah, he'll be all right. Not his wife.
Oh, sorry to hear that, Regan. We did the best we could.
I know. And what started it?
I was just checking. So far, nothing conclusive.
You think it was an accident?
No. Went too fast. This one was planned, Regan.
Pyromaniac.
I'm not too sure. The next usually stick around. Watch it. They get their kicks that way.
Check the crowd?
They always check the crowd. Nothing certain yet.
Okay, Ann. Thanks.
Regan, when you see Romano, tell him we did our best.
I left Rand examining the charred scraps of what was left of Romano's grocery store. I walked down the street, thinking, putting the twos with other twos and trying to make fours. And then I saw something up ahead, and I forgot about the twos and fours. There was a yellow Model A Ford parked 3 blocks from the scene of the fire, sitting quiet, docile, far from the nearest streetlight. I got to it and started to look in. It was the car that had tried to run me off the street. It was...
Stay away from there, mister.
I turned. Saw a kid. Big kid who'd driven the car into me. In his right hand, a revolver.
Come on, get away from it.
You like guns.
I get me things. Come on.
You also like matches.
Shut up.
You also like killing people.
Right.
You think that I said killing? I drove him off the sidewalk at his knees and we went down together, rolling on the pavement, digging for the gun. And it was anybody's weapon until I felt the cold steel of a second between us. Saw the barrel moving up under my chin. Heard the report. Sid was gone. I was holding a sticky, damp spot above my left ear, and when I pulled my hand away, it too was sticky, damp. I got up, rocked unsteadily on my feet, stumbled down to my car. I reached for the ignition, pushed the starter, and decided to wait. Voices and faces, and voices and lights, and a big blank wall to stare at. I waited, not being sure, and then I opened my eyes, and the blank wall was the ceiling, and the face was Sergeant Bull. He said it was just a scratch. Lay down. What's going on around here? Said lay down. You want to hurt something or something? Bull, you're doing a stinks. Where are we? George just here receiving. Huh? Only why Rand had brought Rand brought me here? You found in your car. You were out. Way out. Romano. Is he okay? Yeah, he's okay. His wife, Mary. Does Romano know? Yeah, he knows. Bull. Yeah? You still figure Romano burned his own store down? Shut up. Besides, suppose you answer a couple of questions. Okay. Just ask me. Bull asked me, and I told him. And he folded his notebook and he walked out. I got up, checked my legs and the bandage over my left ear, danced down the hospital corridor, and walked out. 30 minutes later, the cab let me off where I'd last seen that yellow coupe, and I began to check garages. And the first one I checked was behind the apartment building where Mrs. Wilson lived. And I got nothing. 30 minutes after that, I'd covered her side of the block and was on the last apartment across the street. 4 garages, side by side. First, Chevy. Second, Dodge. Third, Ford. Not a new one. It was a coupe like the yellow one I was looking for, only this was black. Shiny black. Shiny black. That was worth nothing. I moved into the dark garage and looked closer at that Model A and reached out and touched the shininess and brought my finger back fast. Sticky. Wet. Nearly painted. What are you doing back here? Short, fat with a flashlight beam in my eyes. Come on, speak up. What's your business? Turn off your light. Not a chance, mister. I'm on you. I said turn it off. Hey. Whose car is this? None of your business. I said whose car? This is my property, mister. You... It ain't my place to give out information on my tenant. Oh, you want to listen to your apartment? Well, Does he? Well, I rent that garage, mister. $5 a month. But the guy who owns the car doesn't live here? It ain't no guy, mister. Woman pays the bill. A woman? A plump woman wears rimless glasses. Yeah. Her name's Wilson. Mrs. Wilson. Hey, that's... Thanks. Hey, you ain't got no right to ask me questions. I moved around the building, across the street, double time. Double time up the stairs. Up to the place I'd been earlier in the afternoon. It was late now, very late. But whether she liked it or not, Mrs. Wilson was getting a caller. I leaned on the buzzer, stayed on it. And midnight or not, Mrs. Wilson was going to answer if it took me on.
What's the meaning of this? The very idea... Oh, it's you. Well, see here.
I'm coming in, Mrs. Wilson.
I won't have with you. I'm calling the manager. That's what I'm going to do.
I'm coming in, Mrs. Wilson.
You policemen have no right to disturb peace-loving citizens.
I'm not the police, Mrs. Wilson.
You're not the police? Well, Investigator.
Not this time.
Get out of my house, you will. Get out of...
Shut up.
What do you want?
Your son. If he is your son.
You're crazy. My son is out of town.
Really?
He's been gone since yesterday. He's visiting his aunt.
That's right.
He left on the train for Santa Barbara. That's where my sister lives. Tommy left yesterday morning.
Tell me about Tommy.
He's a good boy. There's nothing he's done wrong. What right have you got?
What have you got covering up a murder?
Murder?
Sure, murder, Mrs. Wilson. When your kid set fire to Romano's store, somebody was killed. The law can call that manslaughter, Mrs. Wilson, but you and I know it's murder.
You're lying. You're making...
Why, Mrs. Wilson? That's all I want to know. Why? Why did you knowingly let your kid set fire to that store? What kind of a distorted brain?
You shut up. What those people got, they deserve. We don't want their kind in this neighborhood. We've got our rights.
Who's we?
Citizens. Real American citizens.
Oh, Romano's not, is that it?
There's no place
I think I'll just look around, Mrs. Wilson.
Where are you going?
Look around. Something brought this business to a boil.
You stay out of there!
Oh, I wasn't going in. But since you made a point of it...
You get out of here.
Now, why would you care if I looked in your kitchen, Mrs. Wilson? Interesting. There, Regan.
You've got no right to him.
Sugar, soap, lots of it. Let's see. Yeah. There are about 2 dozen cans of coffee, a couple of cases of soap, and there's the sugar there.
I paid for it. It's my right to buy what I want. Romano can't tell me what I'm supposed to.
Romano tried to tell you how much you could buy.
No, Bertie, Sophie Foreigner's going to tell me what I
That's right. You're an American. A real patriotic American.
Right.
The Constitution says you've got a right to buy as much as you want any time you want. You've got the right. Yeah, remember, you're telling me that.
So I sent you to keep your nose
Your
out of
kind
my
belongs behind bars, Mrs. Wilson.
What?
Your kind can't eat off the same table with Romano's. Your kind belongs out back in a pig pen, where you can wallow in your soap and coffee and sugar and grease. Get back with the pigs, Mrs. Wilson. Somebody left a loophole in the Constitution.
Stand right where you are, mister.
Well, that makes it complete.
Oh, Tommy. Oh, my Tommy.
I thought I stopped you once, mister.
Oh, he said such horrible things, Tommy. He said such terrible
I won't be
things.
saying much when I get through with him.
When you get through with what? Haven't you killed enough for one night?
Killed?
Mrs. Romano's dead. Dead from the smokes and flames and hate your mother cooked up.
Oh, no. I wasn't going to kill her.
Oh, just a little fire. Burn them out of the neighborhood. Your mother's idea.
Tommy, don't let him talk to me.
Sure, they always start that way. Just a little hate. But it builds, doesn't it, kid? Starts with a fist, ends up with guns, lots of them.
Tommy. I didn't...
Go on, shoot, kid. Make the neighborhood safe for Americans. Your mother's kind of American. Kind that breeds hate and greed and gets start doing it.
Tommy, you can stop.
Shoot, kid. Well, true, she's right. But you can kill because you're special, like she is. Give me that gun. What? Gun? Gun. Thanks. There must be something in the Constitution that fits you, Mrs. Wilson. And do what? Murder, arson, whatever you want to call the crimes of Mrs. Wilson. You might say she was fighting for a fifth freedom. The freedom of grab. And she won. The right to spend the next few years grabbing the bars of her own private cell.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to read a telegram we just received. Final ballot tabulation shows Dragnet has won Michael Award for Best Radio and also for Best Television Mystery Program in 1952. 20,090 qualified members participated in nominations in final ballot. Congratulations and best wishes. Ed Bobley, President, Academy of Radio and Television Arts and Sciences. The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned a robbery detail. A United States mail truck is held up and robbed. 22 sacks of registered mail are taken. The hold-up men escape. There's no lead to their identity. Your job? Get them. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
Yes, compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Fatima gives you more for your money.
And in king-size Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke. plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Monday, August 4th. It was hot in Los Angeles. We were working the night watch out of robbery detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Gillian. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from communications, and it was 11:05 p.m. when I got to room 27A, the squad room.
That's it. There wasn't anything else to do. One of them had a gun pressed right up against the back of my head. I didn't dare make a move.
All right, bud, take it easy. Joe? Nothing yet. The broadcast and the APB are out on him. How you feeling, Houston?
Not bad. Still a little shaky. How about my partners, Frank and Adolph? Are they hurt bad?
No, a couple of bad bumps in the head. They'll be all right by morning. Doctor's treating them now over at Georgia Street.
Can we talk to them tonight?
Doctor doesn't think it'd be a good idea. We can wait till morning. You look a little pale, Houston. You sure we can't get you something?
No, I'll be all right. Still a little shaky, that's all. It's the worst scare I ever got in my life. Thought I was gone for sure.
How about a glass of water?
Yeah, okay, if you got it.
You bet. You got a penny, Frank?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just talking about the getaway car when you came in, Joe.
Yeah.
But Houston here is pretty sure he was right the first time. It's a dark blue sedan, late model.
Mm-hmm. Any idea at all what make it was, bud?
I wouldn't like to say definitely. I don't want to mix you up. I got half an idea it was a GM car, maybe a Buick or an Olds. I can't say for sure, though.
All right, here's your water.
Oh.
You didn't get a look at the license, huh? You sure of that, are you?
No, I didn't see it at all. The whole thing went too fast for me. I appreciate this.
I got it. Robbery, Smith. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, Inspector. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see. Yeah, we'll be here for a while. Yeah, 27A. Right, thank you. Goodbye.
You got it.
Post Inspector Joe. He's on his way over now.
That's fine. Hey, Bud, when you started your run with that mail truck tonight, you have any inkling at all that there was something wrong?
I don't think I get you, Sergeant. What do you mean?
Well, did you happen to notice anyone suspicious hanging around the post office out by the loading platform, maybe?
No, buddy.
How about on your way to the Union Station? You notice any cars following your mail truck there?
No, if they were, I think I'd have noticed it. I usually keep an eye out when we're making a run. It's a habit I got into, I guess.
How long you been driving a mail truck, Bud?
About 5 years. I've only been handling the registered mail the last couple of months, though.
Did your truck leave the post office on schedule tonight?
Yeah, right on the dot. We followed the other trucks out. You see, the trucks that pick up the ordinary mail, they leave first, and then our truck leaves right after them. We only handle registered stuff.
I see.
The same routine tonight, no different.
And you were the driver of the truck, that right, Bud?
Yeah, that's all I do is drive. Frank's the clerk, Adolph's the guard. That's regulations. On trucks that handle just the straight mail, the driver's the only one aboard. Registered mail trucks got to have 3 men, the driver, the clerk, and the guard.
I know. You usually drive the same route from the post office to the Union Station, do you?
Yeah, we go the same way every night. Straight down Temple Street, turn right and go down Ferguson to Alameda, then over Alameda to Union Station, make the pickup or the delivery, and then we come back the same way to the post office.
And that's the route you followed tonight, huh?
Yes, sir, that's it. Only we didn't make it back this time.
I'd like to make sure we got this straight now, Bud. Do you mind checking us out on exactly what happened from the time you got to the Union Station?
No, I don't mind.
Well, try to relax if you can. Just take your time. Try to remember everything, will you?
Say, would you mind very much if I called my wife first? I know I'm going to be late getting home. I don't want her to worry.
You bet. Go right ahead, Bud.
What's your number? I'll dial.
Oh, thanks. It's Pleasant 29321.
Okay.
You got a family, Bud?
Yeah, 3 kids. Mother-in-law, too. She lives with us.
Here you are, Bud.
Oh, thanks. Lorraine? Oh, hi, Mother. Did I get you out of bed? No, nothing's wrong. I just called to say I'd be a little late tonight. I didn't want Lorraine to worry. No place? No, I'm not in a bar. Why do you have to say things like that? If that's the way you feel, all right. Just tell Lorraine, will you? Hello? Mother-in-law, you never get off your back. I'm sorry to interrupt, officer.
It's all right, Bud. You want to go ahead now?
Let's see. You wanted to know what happened after we left Union Station?
Yeah, that's right. What time was it when you left the station?
Right after we loaded the mail sacks on the truck, 28 sacks, all registered, and took off.
What time was that?
Scheduled time, 9:56. Left the station, headed for the P.O., drove the same route, along Alameda to Ferguson, then up Ferguson. As I turned the corner, I picked up their headlights in the rearview mirror. Then they started crowding us. I knew something was wrong. Too late to do anything.
They pulled up alongside, forced you into the curb, then?
Yeah, the darkest part of the street, too. It was a big sedan, I know that. A 4-door job. Dark blue, and it was a late model, I'm sure.
You notice anything special about the car, Bud? I mean, maybe a dented fender, some special accessories on it, anything like that?
No, nothing I'd be sure about. I was too busy trying to keep going, get out of their way. I didn't have much of a chance. They forced us up on the sidewalk. I saw a telephone pole coming at me. I had to stop.
What happened then?
I threw a bright spotlight on it. Blinded me for a minute. And these 3 men got out of the car and came at us, guns in their hands. It all happened in a couple of seconds. I was never so scared in my life.
Did you get a good look at any of the men?
No, I didn't. It was pretty dark. The place they stopped us at. I couldn't be sure I'd recognize any of them if I saw them again.
Well, what'd the men do when they came up to the truck?
Put their guns in our face, made us get out of the truck and climb into their car, the blue sedan. And one of them got in the mail truck behind the wheel. His name was Sid. I heard that. One of the men said, "Follow us in the truck, Sid. You know where to go." That's what he said.
You happen to hear any other names?
No, that was the only one. The Sid seemed to be the boss. He was giving the orders anyway.
They put you and your 2 partners in the back seat of their car?
Yeah, and the 2 thieves were in the front seat. One drove and the other held a gun on it. He kept the lower part of his face covered with a handkerchief. You could see the mail truck following a little ways behind us.
Mm-hmm. They drove you straight down Alameda, is that right?
Yes, sir. Like I told you before, I think it was about a mile and a half. And they turned off right into that alley by the warehouse, same place you found me.
Uh-huh.
I figured that was the end. They got us out of the car, Frank and me and Adolf. They just line up against a brick wall there, hands up in the air, facing the wall, and then they opened up the back of the truck and transferred the mail sacks to their car.
Well, any conversation while all this was going on?
Not too much, no. You see, one of them, I think that was Sid. He covered us with a gun, a shotgun. The other 2 moved the mail sacks from the truck to the car, and every once in a while the Sid would tell them, "Come on faster, we're short on time." I think that's what he said.
Well, why'd they slug your 2 partners, this Frank and Adolf? Any reason for that?
It's coming to that. You see, when they got all the mail sacks in their car and they were ready to pull out, the other 2 guys came over to Sid, and one of them said, "What are we waiting for? Let's kill them and get out of here."
Yeah?
Well, right away, our clerk, Frank, he began pleading with them not to kill us. I guess Frank was thinking of his wife and his little kid.
Mm-hmm. How'd the thieves react?
Well, they slugged him, cracked him with a gun, and hit him a couple of times. Frank went down. He started crying. Just a young kid, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Well, this other guy told Sid again. He said, "Come on, let's kill him. Let's get out of here." He's the one who had something wrong with his voice. It was real husky, you know, like he had a cold.
Go ahead.
Well, I got to say, this Sid wasn't much for killing us. He told the other guy he didn't think they ought to kill us because they'd set him up for a murder rap besides mail robbery. The other 2 guys told Sid, "What's the difference? If we're going to rob the mails, we might as well go all the way." They argued about it a minute or so.
Yeah.
And my other partner, Adolf, he began to plead with him. He said, "Please don't kill us." I was sick to my stomach. I couldn't even talk.
What'd you say?
I said I was sick to my stomach. I couldn't even talk.
Was that when they slugged Adolf?
Yeah, this Sid slugged him. He hit him worse than he did Frank. He kept beating him and beating him. I can still hear it. I just got sick. Well, make a long story short, the Sid finally said, "We'll give him a gambler's chance. We'll toss for it."
Huh?
That's just what he said. He said, "We'll toss for it." And he says, "Hey, you." And he motioned to me. He said, "I'm going to toss a coin. You call it. If you lose, we kill the 3 of you. If you win, we don't." So help me, it's the truth. I didn't know what to do. I tried to talk him out of it. Yeah. They wouldn't listen. The Sid told me either I called it or they'd kill us then. Took a coin out of his pocket and flipped it in the air. I called heads. Guess I don't have to tell you. I won.
Something new for the book.
How'd it go after that, Bud?
Tied up the 3 of us and drove off in their car. About 15 minutes later, that night watchman found us and called you fellas. You know the rest.
And you're sure you wouldn't be able to identify any of the hold-up men if you saw them again?
No.
You're real sure?
No, their general build, that's the only thing I'm sure of. This fellow Sid was tall on the thin side, about 45, 50 years old. The other 2 were fairly short, stocky. Like I told you, that one fellow's voice, deep and husky. I think I'd know him if I heard him talk again.
Excuse me a minute. Robbery Friday. Yeah, well, how's it going? Uh-huh. Yeah, not much doubt. All right. Fine. Yeah, fine. Well, getaway car, they just found it. Where'd you? Up in Elysian Park, just off Riverside.
What about the mail sacks? They find them, too?
Yeah, every one of them. Empty. According to the report we've received, the getaway car was found parked in a clump of shrubbery on the edge of Elysian Park, about half a mile from Riverside Drive. All of the 28 registered mail sacks were found scattered in and around the car, and with the exception of a few pieces of mail, the sacks were empty. A crew from the crime lab was dispatched immediately to the scene to check the car and the mail sacks for fingerprints and to cover the entire area for physical evidence. The mail truck was also gone over for prints at the point where it had been located. The officers at the scene, Sergeants Bitteroff and Gonzalez, continued the investigation on their end. 11:50 p.m. After the inspector from the post office department arrived, we continued our interview with Bud Houston, one of the 3 victims of the mail truck robbery. We ended the interview a few minutes after midnight, and Houston was driven to his home. The following morning, along with the postal inspector, Frank Smith and I talked to the other 2 victims, the clerk and the guard who were with Houston at the time of the holdup. They could add nothing to what their partner had already told us. The investigation went on. Every possible angle was checked and rechecked. 3 days passed. Nothing. Thursday, August 7th, 5:40 p.m.
Hi, Joe. How'd you make out?
Oh, it's sour. Nothing at all. The guy wasn't even in town the night of the holdup, and he can prove it. You have any luck?
No better than yours.
I might just as well have taken the day off for all the good we did. Nothing from the stats office, huh?
No. Last one we asked for won't be ready till tomorrow. It's getting a little embarrassing, Joe. We got them checking practically every robbery card they've got. M.O. description, only a few of them come close. We've already rolled them out as possible. The one you just checked on, that was the last.
About does it. Might as well close up shop for the day, huh? You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
I'll sign this out.
All right.
Okay, Joe. That mail truck driver, Houston, he and his partners were in checking through our mug books again this afternoon.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. They come up with anything?
Well, they spotted one mug shot, parolee from Quentin, only a partial ident. 3 of them couldn't even agree on that. I checked on the man. He's back in Quentin for a month.
I can't say the 3 of them aren't cooperative. They've sure been working for us, haven't they?
Hey, Joe, you in a hurry? How about watching out?
Yeah, all right.
Been a long time since we've had one start as slow as this one.
You're running the worst, Frank.
I mean right from the start, Joe. We find a getaway car, plenty of prints on it. Can't get a make on any of them. Find out the car was stolen. We checked the owner, location, leads nowhere. Prints on the steering wheel of the mail truck, parts of the mail sack, still no make. How tough can it get?
Well, they might have something when their kickback comes through from Washington. The hold-up men weren't amateurs. We know that.
Joe, you checked with Gonzalez and bid her off today. I didn't see him.
Yeah, they're not doing much better than the rest of us. They got an informant out on the thing. He's supposed to have some work for him tomorrow and a couple of possibles.
Hey, how about the money taken from the mail they got? List of the serial numbers on the bills going out to everybody?
Yeah, revised list went out late last night. Copy sent all over the country.
Right?
Yeah, Mac, right here.
Offering
Okay, thanks. Be right there. Okay, let's go. All right.
Hope this call means something, Joe. Wouldn't mind going late tonight.
What do you mean?
My sister-in-law, Florence, she's having me and the wife over for dinner, some kind of fancy pork dish.
What's the matter with that?
She never cooks anything until it's done. She likes things raw.
Oh, that's so?
Imagine what that roast pork's going to be like. We'll all end up with trichinosis.
Yeah. Go ahead. Mac? Which one, Mac?
1, 2, Joe.
Thank you. Friday talking. Yeah. Oh, yeah, John. You sure check. Okay, fine. About 20 minutes. 20 minutes, yeah. Right, thank you.
Anything, Joe?
Wilshire detectives. They got a petty theft suspect out there now named Cecil Grant. Picked him up this morning.
What about him?
Well, he had a $20 bill on him stuffed down in the corner of his pocket.
Yeah?
They checked out the serial number. It's on the list. 6:05 p.m. Frank and I got in the car and drove out to Wilshire Station, where we double-checked the serial numbers on the $20 bill taken from the petty theft suspect, Cecil Grant. It checked out. The officers at Wilshire Division had already made a run on Grant through R&I, but outside of one other arrest for petty theft, he had no further criminal record. His fingerprints had been checked, but they failed to tie in. The suspect was taken from his cell to the interrogation room, where Bill and I questioned him. He talked a lot, but he didn't say much.
Well, now, look, there ain't any reason to get mad. We can settle this thing without a big rhubarb. No reason to get mad.
28 sacks of U.S. mail, mister. A couple of men slugged till they couldn't stand up. We figure that's a good reason.
All right. I know. Why bring your troubles to me? That wasn't,
You got a piece of the loot, a $20 bill. You had it in your pocket. You admit it's yours.
All right, so what?
The holdup's still fresh. It ties you in close, Cecil. You're warm enough for us.
What do you mean? What are you getting at?
You don't need me to explain it. You got a piece of the loot. You say the bill must have been in your pocket for at least a day.
That's right.
Then it's a good chance you were in contact with the thieves. Either that or you're one of them.
I'm not. You know that. Couldn't have been there. I got an alibi.
Now, face it, Grant. You're not going to alibi that $20 bill. Now, how about it?
I don't know. I told you I don't know.
If it's not your job, you better check us out, Cecil. Robbing the U.S. mail. I think you know what that gets you.
I don't know. Money was in my pocket. I just don't know.
25 years, 30, maybe 35. If you're not in, why fool with it? How about it, Cecil?
I'm not in. You know that.
Then what about the 20? What about it?
Well, this is the way it happened. Guy owed me a 20. Owed it to me for 6 months, maybe more. Tuesday he came around, paid off. Gave me that bill you got.
This last Tuesday?
That's right. Thought it was funny, but he's a nice guy. I didn't want to make trouble.
How do you mean?
Well, when he paid me the 20 back, he said, well, look, here, the bill isn't phony, but don't let it out for a couple of days.
Bill's okay, but just sit on it, maybe a week or two. That's just what he told me.
Who was it? Where did we find him?
He's a nice guy, friend. I don't want to make trouble.
It's already made. Now, what about it?
Johnny Carter, 380 Nashville Avenue, apartment 2.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
Because of its quality, Fatima is the one king-size cigarette that stands out. Here's the practical way to prove that yourself.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Fatima gives you more for your money.
And in king-size Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Because of its quality, its extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos, more and more smokers coast to coast are switching to Fatima every day.
Buy Fatima. Your money back plus postage if you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking.
Just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Add to your smoking enjoyment. Smoke king-size Fatima, extra mild and soothing, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Get Fatima in the bright sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
August 7th, Thursday, 6:55 p.m. We called R&I, but they had no make on the name John Carter. My partner, Frank Smith, and I left Wilshire Division and headed out to check on the address given us by the theft suspect, Cecil Grant. The 300 block on Nashville Avenue was in West Hollywood, just below Melrose. Number 380 was an aging two-story apartment house. The architecture was old Spanish, a relic of the mid-20s. The name John Carter appeared on one of the mailboxes, but when we rang, there was no answer. We contacted the apartment manager, and he told us John Carter worked at night at a downtown garage. Along with the manager, we went up to the second floor and checked through the suspect's apartment. We found nothing to indicate that he'd taken part in the mail holdup. After a routine interview with the manager, we got the name and address of the garage where Carter was employed, and we left. 8:23 p.m. We pulled up and parked half a block away from Carter's place of employment, an all-night service garage on South Figueroa. Frank waited in the car, and I headed up the block alone toward the garage. In the event Carter was one of the mail truck holdup men, there was a possibility his two Confederates might be employed at the same place he was. If this was the case, we didn't want to tip him off. Hi.
Yeah. You want something?
Yeah, I do. I need a little help if you got the time.
I don't know. I'm busy right now. What's the matter?
I got my car stalled down the street there. I can't figure out what's wrong. A lousy thing just stopped on me.
All right. Check the gas tank?
Yeah, nothing as simple as that. I got almost a full tank. Well, I hate to bother you. You think you could come down and take a look at it? It's not far, just a half a block down the street.
I'm pretty busy. You can see that. I don't know.
Sure appreciate it if you give it a look. I'm not much of a mechanic myself. Probably something real small. My car's almost new.
I don't know. Just a minute. All right, that's going to have to do. It's 2.5 service charge. I have to leave the garage. I guess you know that.
Okay, that's all right with me. I got to get that car started.
You pay in advance. We've had too many hassles on this before.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, okay. Just down the street, you said?
Yeah, down this way.
Okay.
I don't know what happened to the lousy thing. It just quit on me.
Nice night. What'd you do? Pound on a gas pedal, flood the carburetor?
No, I don't think so. I kept trying the starter when the thing quit on me. There's an automatic choke on the car, though. Maybe that had flooded. I don't know.
A half a block now. Which one's your car?
Straight ahead there, the gray sedan.
Oh, yeah.
This one right here.
Okay, get the hood open.
Well, never mind that, mister. Just get in the car. All right, Frank.
Oh, what's this?
Police officers, his identification. Get in the car.
What's the matter? What is it?
Come on, in the car.
Hey, what's the pitch? What's it all about?
Your name, John Carter, address 380 Nashville Avenue?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Is that your name and address?
All right, it is. What about it?
Get him behind you. Help him, Frank.
Yeah.
All right, that's good.
What are you trying to pull? What's this about?
U.S. mail robbery, Carter. I want to talk to you downtown.
I don't know anything about any mail robbery. What are you talking about?
Nothing to worry over. If you're cleared, you'll be back on the job in an hour.
Well, why pick me? I work at garage. It's my bread and butter. Why don't you go ahead and arrest the newsboy down corner? Same thing.
No, there's a big difference.
Yeah, you name it.
A $20 bill. 9:05 p.m. After checking with the garage manager to make sure none of his employees were possible accomplices of Carter's, we drove the suspect back to the city hall, took him to the interrogation room, and started to question him. In the space of an hour and a half, he gave us 3 alibis, supposedly accounting for his whereabouts the night of the mail truck robbery. In the same period of time, we checked out each of the 3 alibis by phone calls. Every one of them was alive. The questioning went on. 11:30, midnight, 12:30 a.m. We sent out for coffee. 1 a.m., 1:30. We stayed on it. 2 o'clock, 2:30, 3 a.m. It was like any other interrogation. It's a lot tougher to keep asking the questions than to answer them. We were as tired as the suspect, but he had one big advantage. We had to keep pressing, and we couldn't afford to show our fatigue. All he had to do was to say no and refuse to answer the questions. At a few minutes before 5 a.m., we called a halt to the interrogation, but not before we gained a point. Apparently, by a slip of the tongue, Carter gave us the name of the girl he was keeping company with and also her place of employment. After we booked Carter on suspicion of 211 PC, and after we picked up 2 hours' sleep, we located the girlfriend, a Grace Nelson, at her place of employment, a telegraph office at Alpine and South Flower.
All I know is I met John about 3 months ago. His family's from Cedar Rapids, same as mine. There's nothing wrong with John I know of.
You know any of his friends, Miss Nelson, any of the people he has dealings with?
Not personally, I don't. Heard him talk about some, though. Why, what's the matter?
Do you remember any of the names, Miss Nelson?
Let me see. He's always talking about Sid. I don't know his last name, though. Don't know where you'd find him. And then there's Sammy. Don't remember his last name either. Met Sammy once, but don't know where he stays.
You notice anything unusual about Mr. Carter the last week or so, ma'am? I mean, anything peculiar, anything out of the ordinary?
Anything peculiar? No, I don't think so. John's been just as nice as ever to me. I like him very much. As a matter of fact, it's been nicer than he's ever been.
How do you mean, miss?
Well, for my birthday, last Wednesday.
Yeah.
Well, he was so sweet about it. Really sweet. He gave me $400. Gave it to me in cash. Told me to go out and buy what I wanted. Wouldn't you say that's sweet?
Have you any of that money left, Miss Nelson?
Why, yes, of course I have. See, right here in my purse. Yeah, right there. More than half of it.
Carter tell you where he got this money, Miss Nelson?
Gambling game. He said he wanted a card. What's wrong?
Serial numbers, ma'am. This money was taken in a hold-up U.S. mail. We've got a pretty good reason to suspect Carter.
You mean John's a thief? That's how he got the money? I can't believe it.
Afraid it's true, ma'am.
So hard to believe. I hope you don't think I had anything to do with it. Robbing people, nails. Are you sure it's John Carter you want?
Yes, ma'am, we're pretty sure. We understand you were pretty close to him. He said the two of you were going to get married.
I don't know. We did have it set at one time, but no, I don't know. I have people in this town, my whole family. I couldn't let this get out now.
You're willing to admit the $400 you got came from John Carter, the same bills that he gave him to you?
I don't know. I love John. I want to hurt him. I really love him. Tell me the truth. What's going to happen?
Well, he's going to be charged with robbery, ma'am, holding up a U.S. mail truck, taking 28 sacks of registered mail.
John Carter?
That's right, him and 2 others. I'd like to ask you one more question, miss. Do you have any idea what Carter was up to? The robbery, I mean?
Me? Of course not. No idea at all. I love John. I loved him for what I thought he was. I'd go through anything for him. I love him. Just wouldn't make any sense, though, would it?
Ma'am?
Going to jail for him. Just common sense. You can't love anybody that much.
That afternoon, we had the suspect, John Carter, brought from his cell to the interrogation room where he was confronted with the testimony of both Cecil Grant and Grace Nelson, 2 of the people he'd given some of the stolen money to. Another hour of interrogation and Carter broke. He admitted taking part in the holdup and gave us the name of his partner. He named as the leader and mastermind of the robbery a Sidney Grover at an address in Highland Park. Frank and I checked it out.
Yeah?
Police officers, you Sidney Grover?
Yeah. I'm not feeling so well. Can't you come back later? Not feeling well at all.
It's kind of important, Grover. I'd like to talk to you downtown.
Come back later, huh? A little later on. I got so many troubles right now, please.
I'd like to talk to you about a holdup, Grover. Mail truck. We got the 2 men who worked it for you. They gave us the whole story.
2 men? What do you mean? Can't you see I got troubles? Please don't bother me. Come back later, huh? Bad trouble.
You better get your coat, Grover. Got to talk to you downtown.
Look, don't you understand? My son's left me. My only boy. He packed his bag. He walked out. He left me.
Afraid that's your problem, mister.
He said he didn't want any part of me. He had an argument. He didn't like what I was doing. A big argument. He slapped my face, my own boy, and he walked out. Slapped my face.
All right, you want to get your coat?
Yeah, okay. Mail job, is that it? Got the other 2?
Yeah, we got them.
All right, no argument. I didn't try to run away. I guess you can see that. My boy said it was a crook. We argued. He slapped me, walked out. How come, Sergeant?
I wouldn't know. Let's go over.
It's our story, huh? Old man trying a mail robbery. I'm 55. I don't look it, do I? Kid slapped my face. He said I was a crook. I couldn't hit him back, my only boy. Wish he hadn't called me a crook. But it's our story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sour. Let's go.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On November 29th, trial was held in Superior Court, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, there's one thing I'd like you to remember the next time you buy cigarettes. Fatimas give you more for your money. That's because no other king-size cigarette can match Fatima quality, and because Fatima is 21% longer than standard cigarette size. That added length means that Fatima's extra mild and soothing smoke is cooled and filtered for your protection. Get a pack tomorrow and compare them with the cigarettes you've been smoking. Fatima, best of all king-size cigarettes.
Sidney Allen Grover, along with his two accomplices, John Harold Carter and Samuel Maxwell Johnson, were tried and convicted of robbery in the first degree, 1 count, and assault with a deadly weapon, 1 count. All 3 are serving their terms in the state penitentiary. First-degree robbery is punishable by imprisonment from 5 years to life. Assault with a deadly weapon is punishable by imprisonment for not less than 1, nor more than 10 years. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors, Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Frazier. Heard tonight were Herb Ellis, Dick Perrin, Inga Hollis. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles. Now, it's Counter Spy on NBC.
Ladies and gentlemen, the American Broadcasting Company brings transcribed to its entire network one of radio's most unusual programs. Pat Novak, for hire.
Sure, I'm Pat Novak, for hire. That's what the sign out in front of my office says. Pat Novak, for hire. Down on the waterfront in San Francisco, you always bite off more than you can chew. It's tough on your windpipe, but you don't go hungry. And down here, a lot of people figure it's better to be a fat guy in a graveyard than a thin guy in a stew. That way, you can be sure of a tight fit. Oh, I rent boats and do anything else that makes a sound like money. It works out all right, if your mother doesn't mind you coming home for Easter in a box. I found that out Wednesday night, about 9 o'clock. I closed the shop early, and I came home to read. It wasn't a bad book if you ever wanted to start a forest fire. It was one of those historical things, and the girl in it wandered around like a meat grinder in ribbons. I was moving along all right. She was just getting her second wind before going after the world's record when the door to my apartment opened and the place began to get kind of crowded. From where I sat, the crowd looked good. She sauntered in, moving slowly from side to side like 118 pounds of warm smoke. Her voice was all right, too. I reminded you of a furnace full of marshmallows.
Good evening.
Yeah, thanks for knocking.
I don't think you mind my coming in without warning.
No, I get the cabbage smell from next door the same way.
Does it pay to be that polite, Mr. Novak?
Saves you the trouble of saying please. What's on your mind?
That bottle in front of you. Will you pour me a drink?
No, I won't. You'll save dough if you look up a bartender.
All right. I came to use you instead of your whiskey anyway.
Let's hear.
My name is Lee Underwood. I'll give you $300 to do something for me. It'll only take an hour.
That's too much dough unless it's murder, and if it is murder, it's not enough dough.
Are you afraid?
I just don't like paid murder. I told you. When you get caught, the pain gets expensive.
If it were murder, I'd do it myself. Mr. Novak, I want you to frighten someone for me.
Why don't you hire a friend? Are they too pretty?
It's a man named Dixie Gillian. You'll find him in an office down on Folsom Street at this address. I promise nothing will happen to you.
That's what they told Benedict Arnold.
You'll be in this office until 11 tonight. I want you to go in and see him. Tell him you're from Adrian, and that he's to get out of town by tomorrow noon.
Suppose he wants to put it off.
He won't. Don't let him know who hired you. Just tell him Adrian said to leave.
Look, lady, you better go on home. For $300, I won't buy a tissue paper plot. Now tell me more or say goodbye.
There's not much more I can tell you, except there won't be any trouble. He's a rotten little beast, and I want him frightened badly.
Why?
He's been bothering my sister.
Why doesn't he bother you?
Because I bothered back too fast. You want the $300, Mr. Novak?
Yeah, it's going to be a long summer. Put it on the table.
Good. And you'll need this, too.
No, you keep that. I don't want a gun.
It's empty, don't worry. See? No shells. It's perfectly safe.
Now, look, sis, I got a nasty disposition. You can rent that for $300, but if you want more, find a gunsel.
I don't want you to be a gunsel. That's why I want you to use this gun. I know it's empty. Use it on Dixie and you'll scare fast. It's just a way to save some breath.
All right. It's your $300.
You'd better go now.
Yeah, wait till I get a code with you. If your doorbell rings, don't play mouse.
Oh?
Because I may look you up.
Am I too young to ask why?
Because if anything goes wrong, I'll be around looking for you. And from there on, it won't be nice. I'll dirty you up like a locker room towel.
Relax, Patsy. You'll never learn to fall in love that way.
She handed me the gun and walked out of my apartment. Seeing her leave made you feel like Frank Buck losing an argument. She walked with a nice, easy swing of a satisfied leopard. And for a small leopard, she had pretty good spots, too. Well, I put the gun in my overcoat pocket and I went down to Folsom Street. The address was down near the bridge entrance, and the street was deserted except for a couple of winos near the corner trying to buy back 1926 at $1 a jug. I stopped in front of the place. It was a machinery company, and I could see a light burning in the back. I began to walk through the place. It was so quiet you could hear a worm with whooping cough, and there were enough shadows around to keep a ghost happy for years. When I got to the office back in the corner, through the glass, I could see a man sitting at the desk. When I opened the door and walked in, he didn't seem surprised.
Come on in, mister. You're bad on noise.
Yeah?
That's right. You make too much for a thief and not enough for a customer. What do you want?
How about 10 words if you're Dixie Gillian?
Go ahead.
You better look up a timetable.
What makes you that tough?
This.
Oh. Well, you look tougher with a gun. Does it make you talk faster?
Now, look, I'm going to say it slow, mister. Pack up your rompers and get out.
Is that you talking or somebody else?
I'm just the guy with a gun. Adrian does the talking.
And he says get out.
That's right. You got the whole message now.
All right, you told me, so wander out and spend your dough.
I will.
Oh, you'll need part of it, though. Because I'm going to give you an answer for Adrian. I'm going to take that gun away from you, mister. You can pick the pieces out of your head on the way home.
You better stand back or I'll share it with you.
You got your offer, mister. Let's see you make good.
Oh, save your muscle, fella. Drop that gun. Save your muscle, fella. The gun's empty.
Somebody fooled us, mister.
Sometimes you can get a home run with a half swing. That's the way it was this time. He couldn't have made it with a prayer book in both hands. He slid down to the floor and trembled for a minute and then flattened out like a leaf in a pool of water. Just before he died, he grabbed his side as if he didn't like the way it hurt. And then he didn't care. I rolled him on his back and let him look at the ceiling. His eyes were open, and he looked surprised, like a guy who didn't figure on a change in the weather. There was a scar that ran across his forehead and dug deep into his hairline. He was lying there with a bunch of pink gum showing as if he was trying to pick up a few bucks with a toothpaste ad. Well, I didn't have time to tell him how sorry I was, because if homicide caught me here, I'd have about as much chance as a canary in a basement full of cats. I started for the door, but right then I knew I could start ordering birdseed. It was Hellman, and he walked over to look at the body.
Hello, Novak. The guy looks embarrassed.
Yeah, I guess he is, Hellman.
What's he doing dead?
Putting in a beef somewhere, I guess. He rates it.
He'll like you for that, Novak. How'd it happen?
A team play. We worked it out together.
But you got the gun.
That's right. I got the gun.
Yeah. You feel like a bet?
No, just keep stealing the old way.
You know how I feel, Novak?
You feel flabby to anybody else, but to yourself, I suppose you feel good. Look, I walked in here with a gun. There was some quick fight talk, and I killed him, but it's still not a good rap.
I can get a long price on it for you, Novak.
I'll bet you can, Hellman. You can give me a bad deal, but part of the time it'll be from the other side of the deck.
Worse than that, Novak. It'll be all the time. I want to watch you because I think you're going to be a crybaby.
I'm going to scream if that's what you mean, Hellman. I'm going to scream about a gal that sent me in here with an empty gun.
That's a big hole for a cat pistol, Novak.
I got a last-minute curve. It was empty once.
Yeah, that's the only way they make a gun. I don't want you for an hour ago. I want you for this dead guy on the floor.
All right. I told you I didn't come in here to kill the guy. I don't know him. He may even be a good guy. I'm sorry he's dead.
All right, Novak. Just wait a few weeks. You can tell him personally.
Hellman had me up against the rail, and he knew it. When we left there, he was wearing a big, toothy smile. It was big enough to sew on his ears. He called the coroner and told him to pick up the stiff, and then we rode downtown. He dropped the gun into ballistics and hauled me into his office. The reporters were there. He gave them the whole story and told them how to spell Hellman. After that, we wound up at the desk, and he booked me on suspicion of murder. The next hour and a half was the kind of stuff they don't write about in the paper. They call it interrogation, and when you're finished, you've been through a lot of tight spots, like an atom up at Caltech. About 11 o'clock, Hellman brought me into his office, and from there on, it happened kind of fast.
I just talked to the DA. He's going to streamline things for you.
Well, he's going to look funny going to trial on a guy you can't identify.
You'll find out all about the dead guy.
You can't count his fingers without making a mistake. If you want to know who he is, talk to that girl. Her name's Lee Underwood.
We've been through all that, Novak. Now, suppose you tell me who Dixie Gillian is.
I don't know, Hellman. The girl said his name was Dixie Gillian.
I won't press you. I don't have to, Novak. I've got the only parlay I need. You, the dead guy, and a big fat murder gun.
Sure.
Yeah, Hellman talking. Yeah, I know it was a 38. They're crazy down in ballistics. I saw him standing over the dead guy. They must have made a mistake, that's all. No, I don't want him in here. I don't want him in here. Hey, Tony,
You're getting pale. You need some more rouge, Hellman.
I got some bad news, Inspector.
Well, keep it or you'll take more home to your wife. I'll talk to you later.
Talk to him now, Hellman. If that bullet doesn't match the gun, talk to him now.
That's right, Inspector. A 38 bullet, but it won't match the gun you brought in.
It's got a match. I came in and found him standing there. He's already admitted it.
It's a neat trick, then. If he fired the bullet out of that gun, he retooled it in midair.
I'm not that fast, Hellman. Come on, get out of that chair so you'll have room to squirm.
You keep still, Novak.
I won't bother you. I'm going home.
Huh?
I'm walking out of your jail, Hellman. You got a broken-down 38 that won't fit anything but your thumbs. You can't hold me on that.
I found you over the body. I can hold you on suspicion of murder.
Yeah, but it'll hurt tomorrow morning, Hellman. The papers will be down for a follow-up, and you'll have to tell them what it looks like out in left field.
I'll handle them.
You can't afford to let them start laughing at you. People get the idea it's your face.
You can save car fare if you stay right here, because I'll have you back by noon tomorrow.
You're not that good, Hellman. You couldn't hold a moth with a searchlight. The town ought to thank you.
What?
Oh, it's a nice jail, Hellman. With you around, it'll last for years. When I walked out of headquarters, I had a nice mess to juggle. It was like trying to walk the baby on a floor full of marbles. If things didn't add up for Hellman, they weren't going to do any better for me. I knew that gun I had went off. If it did, what happened to the bullet, and where did the other one come from? And why weren't there two shots? Well, I couldn't put my finger on a thing, and nothing added up. It was like trying to follow a grain of rice in a Shanghai suburb. So I looked up Lee Underwood's address, and I went by her apartment. The girl downstairs told me that she worked at a nightclub out on the Bay Shore Highway. Well, I had to hit a couple of places, so I looked up the only honest guy I know. An ex-doctor and a boozer by the name of Jocko Madigan. A good man until he began to figure the last drink in the bottle is just as easy to get at as the first. I found him in a little leather-trimmed sink on Powell Street. It was a grimy little hole where they wash the glasses once a week in stale beer. But Jocko was more at home than a vulture in Calcutta.
Ah, Patsy, you're just in time to celebrate my return to health. Something mild for Mr. Novak. A double stinger, perhaps.
No, forget it, Jocko. I got to talk to you.
Patsy, I've just passed through a crisis. A few minutes ago, they set before me a glass with a woman's lipstick all around the rim.
All right, Jocko.
I took one gulp and looked at the glass, and in this dim light, I thought I was bleeding to death. It took them 10 minutes and 3 mirrors to calm me down.
Jocko, I'm in trouble. You got to help me.
But they washed the glass for me in ammonia. They must have left a little ammonia in the glass because the next drink had a very odd tang about it. I've had 3 more just like it, a sort of ammonia colony.
All right.
So far, they've been using domestic ammonia. When the imported stuff comes in, I may give up whiskey altogether.
Calm down, will you, Jocko? I got a bum shake tonight.
Yes?
I either killed a guy or thought I did.
That uses up the alternatives. What are you doing now, taking a boat?
I got hired to scare a guy down on Folsom Street. 10 minutes later, the guy was dead.
Patsy, you take your work too seriously. Couldn't you have just scared him into a lingering illness instead of killing him?
One of the props was an empty gun. Only when the fight came, it grew bullets. Hellman walked in right after on a telephone tip.
What are you doing out of the gas chamber?
The whole thing backfired down at headquarters. The bullet and the phony gun wouldn't match. Oh, it doesn't add up, Jocko. That call to Hellman's a tip-off. I was framed, but why wasn't I framed all the way?
Who is the dead man?
Oh, just a guy with a falling blood count. His name was supposed to be Dixie Gillian, but there's no identification and no record on him.
You shouldn't have hired out as a gunslinger.
I told you I didn't hire out as a gunslinger. It was somebody else's idea.
You have no conscience, Patsy. It's just a sort of soap opera rule of thumb you put into practice now and then, but no real conscience. You'd let a dying woman lie in the middle of the highway unless her head was resting on a pile of savings bonds.
All right, Jocko, I'll try with you later. I need help now.
What sort of help?
I want you to break into a girl's apartment.
Yes?
Don't worry, she won't be home.
Is that supposed to be an incentive?
It's at this address here, up on O'Farrell. Her name is Lee Underwood. She's the one who hired me.
If the girl's not there, what am I supposed to find?
Anything that'll connect her with the dead man. He's a big guy with a scar.
That doesn't help much.
You can't miss. Go through the desk and drawers. Pick up everything you can, will you? And leave a message at my place.
As soon as I've finished this drink.
Oh, hurry up, will you, Jocko? Leave the glass alone and get going.
Don't rush me.
Hurry up, will you? The glass is empty anyway.
Yes, that's what you thought about that gun, but the fellow got an awful jolt out of it. Good night, lover.
I went by a horse parlor on O'Farrell Street and borrowed a car from a guy. It was after midnight when I started down the Bayshore Highway, and about a half hour later, I pulled up in front of the Cat's Paw. It was a long, rambling place on the left side of the road. There was no plan. It just followed the erosion line until they ran out of material. There was enough neon in front to light a main intersection in heaven. In the lobby, I saw a picture of Lee Underwood, one of those shadowy things that was supposed to make you think she'd die in a cold climate. She was sitting at a piano with a little microphone in front of her, and you got the idea right away. She didn't have much of a voice, but plenty of songs that made your wife lean over and ask you to explain. I asked a 50-year-old busboy, and he said she was back in her dressing room getting ready for the 1 o'clock show. When I walked in, she was sitting in front of a mirror working on an upswept hairdo. If she swept it up any more, it was going to leave her head. I stood behind her, looking at that pink, fresh part of her neck that didn't show when the hair was down.
You seem fascinated, Patsy.
No, I just want to know where to break it.
Oh. Sit down on the footstool next to me.
Yeah.
That's it. I like to look down on people. Let me brush that strand of hair back. Or do you like it in your eyes?
Now brush it back so I can see your answers. Who's Dixie Gillian?
What difference does it make?
None to him and some to me. He's dead.
No, he couldn't be dead.
Yeah, well, he'd like to believe that, too. I couldn't sell him that story about an empty gun.
He couldn't have been killed with that gun.
No?
No. I put in a blank, Patsy.
Somebody used a hard-working bullet because Dixie's dead.
There was no reason to kill him. I don't understand.
Yeah, well, that makes you even with homicide, but they got a bigger team. Now, look, I made a diagram, Angel. Up at my place, I ran over murder with you. I don't like it. If you kill people, you don't get invited out enough. So if it's you or me on this one, I'm going to push you all the way.
Don't understand it, Patsy.
Who's Dixie Gillian?
He was after some microfilm. I thought I could scare him away.
You better be ready to identify him because homicide stopped. Even that scar didn't help.
What scar, Patsy?
The scar across his face, there's no record on him.
No, Patsy. Everything goes wrong. Everything you touch goes wrong. That's the wrong man, Patsy.
Yeah. Well, it's too late for a recount.
You've got to get to that body, Patsy. I don't know how, but somewhere you've got to get to him.
You look good, Lee. You make a nice picture.
Wait a minute, Dixie.
You don't need your coat. Come on.
I don't know how it happened, Dixie. I didn't mean it that way.
You like it that way, all right. Bring the boyfriend, too.
No, don't let him, Patsy.
The gun's too big. I'm going with him. It was a short trip. He led us out of the dressing room and down a thin hall to the back door. On the way past the kitchen, you could smell onions and used grease, and that's about all you noticed except the sound of a jukebox somewhere out in front and somebody laughing in a loud, mirthless way. When we got to the door, it was raining outside. We walked about 40 feet over near some trees where the dark was working overtime, and the gunsel made us stop.
Pick your spot, Lee.
You can't be that crazy, Dixie.
It's going to get wet, mister.
You'll have a little trouble yourself.
When I woke up, it was still raining. I was lying on top of the mud like a stubborn seed. My wallet was gone, and the gunsel had ripped open my pockets. I stood up and walked over for a last look at Lee. The rain had washed the makeup off her face, and she looked small and tired as she lay there, like a broken doll that had been tossed out in the rain. I guess she was. Well, I got to my car, and I drove back to town. I checked my place, but there was no word from Jocko, so I went up to Lee's apartment. When I opened the door, the room was dark, but I knew somebody was on the rug. Either that or they'd varnished the floor with bourbon. I flipped on the light and bent over Jocko. Hey. Wake up, Jocko. All right, Jocko. Come on, wake up. Come on.
A little ammonia, I think, would bring me around.
What happened?
I was sapped, I guess.
Everybody's got the same act tonight.
Help me up. Where have you been?
I went down to meet the girl.
Where'd you meet her? In a swimming pool?
I've been in the rain all night. She's going to stay longer. What'd you find out?
The fellow with the scar is her husband.
Yeah?
There's a picture in the desk.
Are there any more pictures?
A few. Take a look.
Where, in here?
Yes.
Well.
Who's he?
It must be Dixie Gillian. He was down to pay off a debt tonight. She called him Dixie once.
There's a note with that name and an address in the other drawer.
He's our boy. We better get up there.
Not if he's already killed 2 other people.
We can't wait for Hellman. If he gets away, I'm all through. I won't have a leg to stand on.
That's my point. When the other fellow gets through with us, we won't have much standing to do.
I felt better now. Gillian was the only guy left in the picture, so I dragged Jocko up to his place. It was an apartment up on Post Street. The elevator operator took us up to the 8th floor and said that Gillian had come in a few minutes before. There was no answer, so we tried the door, and it was open. Jocko didn't like the idea.
Patsy, this is folly. Risking my life is one of the bravest things you do.
Keep still, Jocko. What are we supposed to do? The door was open, wasn't it?
Saw a lot of graves, but I've never been tempted.
Hey, look at the furniture. There's been a fight in here. I'll look in here. You check in the bedroom, huh?
Well, if I'm not right back, don't expect me at all.
All right.
Patsy.
Yeah?
Patsy, come here.
All right.
There's somebody on the fire escape.
Come here. Stand back here.
Oh, he's not moving. He was leaning that way when I first saw him.
All right, I'll get on this side. You raise the window. Now go easy, Jocko. Can you see him from there?
Raise it a little more. All right. He's still leaning there. I can reach out.
All right, watch yourself. If he's kidding, you'll lose an arm.
I got it good. Raise the window more. Hey, Patsy, he's falling. Give me a hand.
Oh, here, let me through there.
Oh, it's too late. I can't hold it.
Hang on, Jocko.
He's falling. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, he was probably dead anyway.
If he wasn't, that was a step in the right direction.
Well, it was an easy night to die. 3 of them had checked out already, and there was still time to look for more. Jocko and I went downstairs to see the guy. He was lying face down in the alley, and as you looked at him, you got the funny feeling he belonged there. He didn't disturb the scene. He just fitted in like a dirty, wet newspaper under a grandstand. But with a gun in his pocket, probably the same one that killed the girl, but there was no way of knowing. Jocko and I watched him for a minute, but your eyes begin to hurt when you see your only warm lead in a deep freeze. It was past 2 when I got down to headquarters and looked up Hellman. I briefed him on the girl and the guy in the alley, and then I asked him if any microfilm had turned up on the first guy in the morgue. That was a waste of time. Hellman couldn't find a brass ring in a dead man's nose, but we went over to the morgue for another look. So far, it was working out like a crossword puzzle torn in half.
It's your turn, Novak. I got more after tomorrow. You haven't.
The microfilm must be on the guy. 3 people have been killed for it, and I got roughed up just for laughs.
We searched the guy once. Here it is.
All right.
Help me roll it out.
Yeah. Well. He sure got thin under that sheet, didn't he?
Wait a minute.
Oh, you run a good morgue, Hellman. What'll the paper say when they hear the stiff got up and walked out?
They got him in the wrong place or something. He didn't walk out.
Well, he's gone, Hellman. You got an answer?
He's been moved, I tell you. The guy was dead, and I saw him put in here. Couldn't be walking around with a hole in the middle of his back.
I don't know, Hellman. You do it with one in your head. Don't sell the guy short. When Hellman found out the body was gone, he stood there and stared at the empty slab. And then he started looking around in a nervous way, like a man trying to find a sugar bowl at a restaurant counter. A few minutes later, he turned and walked out of the morgue, and we were halfway downtown when it happened. It must have hit us at the same time, sharp and quick, like a piece of candy in a bad tooth. The guy back in the alley had come off that slab in the morgue. We got out to Dixie's place, and we began to check. There was a phone operator downstairs, and she said that Dixie had put through a call about 2 hours ago. Hellman checked the number, and it was the ticket office of a railroad. We got downtown and ran through the timetable. There was a train leaving the Oakland Mole in about 40 minutes. Well, it was an outside chance, but tonight that was the only kind for sale. We got down in time to slide on the last ferry over to the Mole. It was still dark out when the ferry pulled away from the slip and started across the bay. But over toward the Berkeley Hills, it was beginning to get light. The sky was the color of a bruise spot on a man's arm.
We'll get up to the pilot house and tell him not to dock until we've gone through all the passengers.
He doesn't have to be on this one.
We'll check the train when we get there.
Wait a minute. You don't have to check. There's your boy.
Where?
Up there on the rail, see? Now, you better go easy, Hellman. He's not a scale model.
Yeah. Just walk quietly until we're behind him.
All right.
Turn around, mister. You'll get a better view.
Hello, Novak. How was the wind and the rain in your hair?
Meet Inspector Hellman. You better turn in your ticket.
I hope you brought your muscle.
Grab him, Hellman.
That's what I'm trying to do. All right, copper. Watch it. I'm being pitched over on the rail.
I'm worried, Hellman.
Watch it, Novak. I'm going over. Oh!
That's one down, mister. Now for you.
I landed on the deck and watched him disappear into the dark. Halfway down, the guy turned in. I got up and followed him down the ladder and along the main deck. He ducked into one of the engine spaces, and I started in to look for him. It didn't take long because he turned out to be real helpful.
You got the idea yet, Novak?
I'll come closer. Tell me then.
Do it yourself. But I'll knock you down hard when you show.
What's that platform? You're backing into trouble.
Stay back there, Novak.
Watch out for that platform, will you? You're backing into the engine.
I kind of wound up last, huh?
Yeah. That's the way it looks. Did you get the microfilm?
Yeah. I got a big heart. Does it show?
A little.
Yeah. It's been a long night, Novak. Huh?
Yeah. But your worries are over. It's almost dawn.
I don't know if I can use it. But I'll give it to you.
Hellman out of an oil slick a few minutes later. It was the first time his hair ever looked good. Dixie Gillian lasted long enough to piece the story together for homicide. Lee Underwood knew her husband was carrying microfilm, and she was worried, so she hired me to scare off Gillian. Well, it might have worked, too, but the first slip came when Lee's husband went by to make a deal with Dixie without telling her. When I jumped him, Dixie was outside and figured it was a double cross, so he killed him with a silencer when that phony gun that Lee gave me went off. Dixie knew that the microfilm was still on the dead man. The only way he could be sure was to get the body out of the morgue. He took it up to his apartment, and when he got the film, he planted the gun and put the body on the fire escape. It was a little safer that way. There was a 50-50 chance the police would miss it the first time around, and he'd have a fair lead. Well, almost worked out for him, except for that phone call. The microfilm was in a capsule next to the roof of the guy's mouth. So old it was new again. Well, Hellman asked only one question. In that fight, did I have anything to do with pushing him against the rail? I told him sometimes those ferry boats roll as much as 45 degrees.
The American Broadcasting Company has just brought you the 10th of a new series, Pat Novak for Hire, starring Jack Webb. Pat Novak is produced and directed by William B. Rousseau. Jocko Madigan is played by Tudor Owen. Inspector Hellman is played by Raymond Burr. Music was composed and conducted by Basil Adlam. Be with us again next week, when over most of these same ABC stations we'll bring you Pat Novak for Hire. This program came to you transcribed from Hollywood. This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
The story you were about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes. Best of all, king-size cigarettes brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to Wilshire Division, Vice Detail. An informant sends you word about an extortion racket going on in your area. The victim, a bookmaker. The suspect, a police officer. Your job, check it out. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
Yes, compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Fatima gives you more for your money.
And in king-size Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Tuesday, October 18th. It was hot in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of Wilshire Division, Vice Detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Hayes. My name's Friday. We were on the way downtown from the office, and it was 9:35 a.m. when we got to the felony section of the main jail, the interview room.
Sit down, Mr. Lawrence. Hi. Got your message when we checked in this morning. What's it about?
Well, I finally made up my mind. I've had enough of this. Say, neither one of you got a cigarette. I left mine back in the cell.
Yeah, sure. Here you are, Lawrence.
Oh, thanks.
You bet. Here's a match for you. Now, what's the story? What's on your mind?
Well, I've been thinking about it most of the night. I didn't get very much sleep. So you remember yesterday? I mean, when you arrested me?
Yeah.
Well, it's just like I told you then. I'm not trying to kid anybody. I admit it.
I've been taking a few bets. It wasn't any big operation, though. You know that. They're just laying off a few bets for my friends, people in the neighborhood.
We know all that, Lawrence. We went through that yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to make sure we got it straight. We aren't any big operators. We just ran the bookmaking as a, sideline.
Mm-hmm.
Business hasn't been too good lately. Had to make it up somehow.
I'm sorry, Lawrence. We can't feel bad about it. You were attacked for making book before. You should have learned your lesson.
Oh, I know. I'm not singing the blues. I'm not trying to alibi. I didn't call you down here for that.
Well, then, what's this all about?
Well, like I told you, I've been thinking about it a lot. I didn't sleep hard at all last night. I finally made up my mind, though. I'm going to get it off my chest if it kills me.
All right, what's that?
I know, Stooley. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but there's one thing I believe in, and that's playing it square, no matter what you do. Just like now, Sergeant, I ain't beating about the arrest. You know that.
What are you getting at? What do you want to tell us?
Oh, all right. Here it is. You know what the record is. I stood a pinch for bookmaking a year and a half ago. I got the thing all squared away, and it came back to my business. I learned my lesson. I didn't want any more trouble, so I laid off the books.
All right, fill us in. What about this policeman?
I'm getting to it. Just a minute. Hey, I'm sorry. You got another cigarette, please. I'm a little jumpy this morning.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Thanks. Oh, thanks a lot. Well, like I was saying, when I cleared up the last beef, I forgot all about the horses. I was off them for good. My wife made me promise. I wouldn't have anything more to do with them. We'd just run the business, live on what they made, and we'd get along fine.
All right, go ahead.
Everything was going fine, too. Business wasn't too good, but we made out. Then the trouble started.
Yeah.
My oldest boy, that's Harry Jr.
Mm-hmm.
He had an accident on the job, and he broke his hip. I had to help his family out while he was in the hospital. Like I say, the business wasn't making too much money, but we made out, though.
No.
Then,
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, then just as soon as Harry got well, the wife came down. Gallbladder. She had to have an operation. Really cost money,
Yeah.
Well, wife is resting at home. She didn't come down to the store. I started with the books again, just taking a few bets on the side, just a few.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really want to do it. Just one of those things, I didn't have anybody to go to. The bills had to be paid.
Well, where does this policeman fit into it this way with you?
Well, I'm just coming to it.
No.
Well, he came in the store. He said he wanted to make a bet. I didn't know him from Adam, so I played careful, I told him I wasn't making books, and then he said he was a good friend of Myra's. Myra, that's a gal who runs a beauty parlor on Crenshaw. She used to make books, but she isn't now.
Yeah, we know the spot.
Well, when he said that he knew Myra, I figured it was all right, so I took the bet. That's when it started. As soon as he makes the bet, he comes out and says he's a cop working for Vice. I thought he was just kidding, and he flashes this identification.
What kind of identification?
Bag?
What kind of a bag?
Well, I don't know. Just a bag. Looked all right.
All right, have a look. This one here, was it like this one?
I don't know. I didn't get too good a look at it. It might have been something like that. I don't know.
You ask for any other identification? You volunteer to show you any?
No, I didn't ask for any. I was scared. I just figured I was arrested again, that's all. He seemed to know all about the first pinch I stood for making book. He told me that I'd been operating for about a month and a half. He said he had his eye on me.
Mm-hmm. What did he do after he told you he was a policeman?
Well, I started to explain to him how the thing shaped up, why I was making books again, how I had to pay up those doctor's bills. I tried to beg off. I told him that I'd quit right now. Then he turns around and tells me I don't have to.
What do you mean?
Well, that's just what he said. He didn't make sense to me either. And he went on, he told me I was operating in his destiny. He said it'd be okay if I went right along the way I was. He'd see to it that I didn't stand any pinches.
Yes, sir. What else did he say?
Well, he said he wasn't the only one who'd have to be taken care of. He said that was his partner. And a couple of guys over him, they'd have to be taken care of, too. He said the juice would cost me $100 a week. I tried to explain to him that.
Yeah.
Well, I told him that I wasn't operating big. I was just on the side. I said I wasn't making that much a week. All I was doing is about 50. That's all, just 50. Then he said, "Well," he says, "all right, if that's the way you feel about it, I'll just take you down, book you now."
Mm-hmm.
Well, I told him I didn't want to stand the pinch again, and I'd do the best that I could. So he finally said, "I'll give you 2 weeks to go ahead and open this thing up." He said I'd have to do more business because the juice was just going to cost me $100 a week. He didn't care how I got it.
This policeman told you to go ahead and open up, huh? For $100 a week, you could go ahead and make book and nobody bother you.
Yeah.
Did your wife ever see this policeman, this fellow Williams?
Yeah, she saw him. She saw him a couple of times. She saw me give him the money. Mm-hmm.
But when did all this start?
About the 1st of July. Paid him $100 every week since then. Yeah, I'm almost glad you fellas picked me up, understand. He was running in the ground. He had me in a bind.
You say the man's name is Ray Williams, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You said he had a partner. Did you ever see him?
No, I never did.
Did Williams ever come in with anybody? Did you ever see him with anybody?
Well, no. No matter of fact, I never did. One time I asked him who his partner was. He says none of my business.
What kind of a car does he drive?
I don't know. Never came to my place in a car. He always walked. He came on foot.
Do you know anything else about him? Where does he live?
I don't know. He never told me. He never told me anything, you see? Nothing. Once I asked him what station he was working out of, who his boss was. He got a little hard with me. He told me not to get nosy, not to ask so many questions.
Is there anything else you can tell us about Williams? Maybe where he hangs out, people he knows? Anything you figure will help us?
Well, he works out Wilshire. You ought to know him.
Ray Williams.
Yeah, Ray Williams. The policeman.
Not in my book. Frank and I continued questioning the prisoner, Harold Lawrence, and he gave us a complete description of the extortions. The man he knew as Officer Ray Williams. Frank got on the phone, notified the commander of Internal Affairs Division of the latest development, and he advised us to bring the prisoner to his office immediately. We signed Lawrence out of the main jail for investigation and took him to the City Hall, room 37. With the help of Sergeants Lloyd Reiner and Floyd Phillips, we started checking through the personnel files for the suspect. Neither Frank nor myself recognized the name or the description of Williams as given us by Lawrence. The first step was to show the prisoner photographs of every police officer in the department, regardless of rank or detail. He was unable to make an identification. We then showed him photographs of all police officers, retired or otherwise. He failed to identify any of them as Williams. We showed him photographs of all civilian employees of the department. Again, no identification. He was unable to find anyone who even closely resembled the extortionist. Not satisfied with this, the prisoner was shown photographs of all law enforcement agencies' personnel in the area. The same results. No identification. 4:18 p.m. While Reiner and Phillips continued checking on their end, we returned the prisoner to the main jail, and then Frank and I drove out to see his wife, Mrs. Mildred Lawrence. We located her at Lawrence's place of business, a small pet shop just off Wilshire Boulevard.
What is it this time? Haven't we got enough trouble? What do you want now?
We just got through talking to your husband, ma'am. A few things we'd like to clear up. I'd like to talk to you a few minutes if we could.
You talked to Harry? How is he?
He's all right, ma'am. We've been with him all day. We're still looking into the case.
Why can't you let him alone? He admitted what he was doing. He wasn't lying. He told you everything.
Yes, ma'am. We appreciate that.
You wanted to let him alone. Let me alone. Trouble. That's all we've had. Sickness and trouble. No end of it.
Well, we realize that, Miss Lawrence. We don't like to bother you, but there's something we have to straighten out here.
I haven't anything to tell you. I'm busy. Left alone here to run the store. No help. I'm sick. Shouldn't even be down here. Let us alone. Let me alone. Harry was wrong. He'll pay for it. We're not asking you for anything.
We're asking you for something, ma'am. We'd like you to help us.
Help you? Why? Policeman all our lives. As far as I'm concerned, you're nothing but trouble. Reason for all our trouble.
Well, that's what we'd like to talk to you about, ma'am.
I haven't anything to say, I told you. I'm a sick woman. Got a lot of work to do. Do you mind stepping aside there? Got this whole bin of dog food to package up. Can't just stand around and talk. Poor little pups have to be fed. Haven't even cleaned a litter yet.
We appreciate how you feel, Ms. Lawrence. We won't take up too much of your time. Can't you give us just a few minutes,
now,
please?
you listen to me. I've tried to be nice to you. I've got no reason to either. I could tell you a lot of things about policemen, things you wouldn't want to listen to. You think you're so smart. Maybe Harry was doing wrong, but he's not the only one. I could tell you plenty if I wanted.
Well, that's what we're here for, ma'am. We told you we were with your husband all day.
And why don't you let me alone? Talked to one cop already today. I told him to stay away, and you do the same. I told him just what I thought of him. Low-down thief.
Who was this policeman you talked to today?
You know who he is. Works the same place with you. You big, honest policeman. You never do anything wrong. That Ray Williams ought to be in jail just like Harry is.
Ray Williams. Is that the man who was here today?
That's what I said, wasn't it? Now, you get out of here?
Now, look, Miss Lawrence, just a minute, please. We talked to your husband, and he told us all about this man, Williams.
Why don't you do something about it? Go get him and put him in jail, just like you did Harry.
That's what we're trying to do, if you'll just help us. Williams isn't a policeman.
What do you mean?
Yes, ma'am. That's what we've been trying to tell you. We talked to your husband. He told us the whole story.
How can you tell? How do you know he's not a policeman?
He's not, ma'am. We're sure of that.
Harry said he was. Showed Harry his badge.
Well, that doesn't make him a policeman, ma'am. We had your husband look at pictures of every officer in this area. He convinced himself that Williams isn't a policeman.
Well, if he isn't a policeman, who is he?
That's what we want to find out. Will you help us? Mrs. Lawrence?
You'll have to excuse me. I didn't mean to be nasty. Just that I've been sick. There's trouble, Harry in jail.
Yes, ma'am, we understand that. Now, you say Williams was here today. About what time was that?
It was before lunch, about 11:30, quarter to 12, I think. He came here to get money. That's what he always came for.
Did he say he'd be back?
No, I told him never to come back. I told him Harry was in jail. All the money we gave him, what good did it do? Said I'd go to the city hall if he ever came back.
What'd he say to that?
He said Harry had to expect an arrest now and then. I told him Harry wasn't going to get arrested anymore. He was through with all that junk. People like him, too.
Uh-huh.
And then he swore at me. Called me some real nasty names. Told me I'd better keep my mouth shut or I'd get worse than Harry did. Then he went out and slammed the door.
Was he driving a car? Did you notice?
No, I never saw him in one.
Is there anything you know about Williams at all? I mean, anything that would help us locate him, maybe?
No, I don't think so. All I know is he said he was a policeman. His name was Ray Williams. Couldn't Harry tell you anything? Maybe he knows.
No, ma'am, he couldn't tell us much.
Oh, excuse me, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Nice's pet shop. Yeah? What's that? Oh, what? Hello? He hung up.
Ma'am?
It was Ray Williams. Said he just drove by here. He saw us.
What do you want?
Said he saw me talking to you. He knows you're a policeman. Told me to keep my mouth shut. Said if I don't, he's coming back.
Yeah?
He said he'd kill me.
Before we left, we called in and arranged for a 24-hour stakeout on Lawrence's pet shop and also on the Lawrence home. Until the suspect was apprehended, she would be given a 24-hour protection. The next day, we picked up Mrs. Lawrence and brought her downtown to the City Hall, room 23. We went through the same procedure with her as we had with her husband. Like her husband, she was unable to identify any of the photographs of police officers in the area. In addition to the personnel photographs, Mrs. Lawrence also went through a group of pictures which Sergeants Reiner and Phillips came up with. They'd had a run made through the staff's office on all known extortionists using the same M.O. Williams used, posing as a police officer. From this group, both Mr. and Mrs. Lawrence gave us 2 partial identifications. Both men were picked up, questioned, and eliminated. Meantime, we'd gotten out a local broadcast and a teletype was sent to George Brereton, CII Sacramento, asking for assistance in identifying the extortion suspect. The investigation went on. 2 days passed. No leads on the suspect. In checking on other possible victims of the extortionist, Ray Williams, we drove to interview Myra Thomas, operator of a beauty shop out on Crenshaw. She was a tall, good-looking brunette in her early 30s.
This man we're looking for, Miss Thomas, Ray Williams, we understand he's a friend of yours.
Please, Sergeant, you've described the man to me. You told me his name. It doesn't mean a thing to me. I don't know him.
Well, then how'd he get your name, miss?
I'm sure I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Well, now, apparently the man knows you, or he knows about you.
I don't think I understand you. It makes you think this man Williams knows me.
We've already told you, ma'am. Mr. Lawrence says that when Ray Williams first approached him, he used your name as a means of introduction. Now, it's not a coincidence. I think you'll admit that.
Well, I just don't understand what it has to do with me. I know how you feel. I have an idea what you're thinking. I was in trouble once, that bookmaking thing. I learned my lesson, though. I'm through with that business.
We're not here about that old arrest, ma'am. We don't want to bother you. Just thought you might be able to help us locate Williams.
I'm sorry. I don't think I can.
Possibly he might have been using another name, ma'am.
I still wouldn't know him. Description doesn't sound like anybody I ever knew.
You know the Lawrences pretty well, do you?
Yes, I wouldn't say pretty well, but I do know them.
Have you seen them lately, either one of them?
No, I haven't.
You haven't talked with Mrs. Lawrence the last couple of days?
No, why?
We thought Mrs. Lawrence might have told you what kind of a man this Ray Williams is.
What do you mean? What's so bad about posing as a policeman?
Well, it's more than that, ma'am. He telephoned Mrs. Lawrence, threatened her if she talked to the police about him.
What?
Yes, ma'am. He said he'd kill her.
Oh, no.
Yes, ma'am, that's right.
Couldn't he? He wouldn't do a thing like that.
Do you know him that well?
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
Because of its quality, Fatima is the one king-size cigarette that stands out. Here's the practical way to prove that yourself.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Fatima gives you more for your money.
And in king-size Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke. plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Because of its quality, its extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos, more and more smokers coast to coast are switching to Fatima every day.
Buy Fatima. Your money back plus postage if you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking.
Just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Add to your smoking enjoyment. Smoke king-size Fatima, extra mild and soothing, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Get Fatima in the bright sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
The idea of an extortionist posing as a policeman to obtain money certainly was nothing new. The idea is as old as crime itself. It's one of the most vicious types of extortion in the eyes of law enforcement agencies because so many such cases go unreported to proper authorities by the victims. Usually the victim is a person of circumstances with something to hide. The extortionist discovers the person's secret by one means or another, and he begins the never-ending process of draining the victim of his last dollar, all under the guise of being a police officer. If the victim's intelligent enough, at the first approach by the extortionist, he takes the matter to the proper authorities. If he isn't, and he's lucky enough eventually to escape the extortion trap, he goes on for the rest of his life believing that a man who was hired to protect him was the source of all his trouble. And for the rest of his life he hangs on to his idea, and he passes it on to others, a complete disrespect for law and law enforcement officers. Saturday, October 22nd, 2:15 p.m. Frank Smith and I continued questioning the beauty shop operator, Myra Thomas. The more we talked with her, the more we were convinced that she was acquainted with the suspect, Ray Williams. In order to convince her of the suspect's viciousness, we drove her over to see Mrs. Lawrence at the pet shop. After their talk, we drove Myra Thomas back to the beauty shop, and she told us the story.
Guess I have to admit it. He certainly had me fooled. I thought he was a policeman.
You say he showed you his identification, ma'am. I mean, when he first approached you.
Yes, he showed me a badge. It looked authentic to me. The way he talked, the things he said. I thought he was a policeman. I really did.
Now, you've heard our end of the story, Miss Thomas. You've talked to Mrs. Lawrence. Are you willing to help us now?
It won't get around, will it? Won't be in the newspapers?
They won't get it from us, no.
You won't tell my husband, will you? He doesn't have to know all about this.
No, ma'am. Not unless you want him to.
Well, I don't. We're not getting along too well as it is. Williams is the trouble, too. Guess I should have told you when you first asked me.
What's that, miss?
Just like the Lawrences, I was paying them off, too. A lot longer than the Lawrences. Every week I paid them, and I couldn't tell anyone. Couldn't even tell my husband.
What's that, ma'am?
Guess I thought I was smart. The bookmaking thing, I mean. Started taking a few bets from the girls in the shop, just small ones. I didn't mean anything by it. And Miss Williams came in one day. Said his girlfriend made a bet with me, and he wanted to place one, too.
Mm-hmm. Did you take it?
Yes, like I told her. I thought I was smart. As soon as I took the bet, he showed me the badge, told me he was a police officer. That's when it started. Same thing, just like the Lawrences.
How about after you were arrested, Miss Thomas? What happened with Williams then?
Oh, after I got it settled, Williams came back to the shop again. I told him then I was through with the horses. Wouldn't have anything to do with it again. After that, I didn't see him for a while. I sure was glad.
You've seen him since? You know where we can locate him now?
Oh, no, I don't. I have seen him since, though. You promised me my husband won't know about this. You give me your word.
Miss Thomas, if you don't want your husband to know about this, it's your business. He'll never hear it from us.
It's got to be that way, believe me. I love my husband. Ray Williams has caused us nothing but trouble. Can't tell you the worry he's caused me. I mean, besides all the money I paid him, too.
You mean you're still paying him?
Yes, that's right. Every week. You don't know how low that man is. I can't begin to tell you. I thought he was a policeman.
Well, why are you still paying him off, ma'am? You mind telling us that?
No, I guess I don't mind. I've gone this far.
All right.
It was while my husband and I were separated. We had a fight. We were separated. Started going out on dates. Nothing serious. One night I was out with a fella from out of town. Nice fella. Ray Williams saw me and a fella sitting in the car. Parking lot right in back of the bar. We were necking. Williams come by and he knew that I saw him.
I see.
There wasn't anything wrong, really. I love my husband. He wouldn't understand about the fella that night, though. I mean, if Williams ever told him.
That's what he's been holding over your head, Henry?
Yes, it's more than a year now. I've paid him every week. I'll tell you the truth, Sergeant. I can't go on much longer. I can't.
Well, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Just help us locate the man. That's all you have to do now.
Well, I don't know where he lives, but I know he's going to contact me. He always does.
And that's what we'd like to know. How does he contact you?
He phones usually once a week, maybe every other week. Calls me and tells me to meet him someplace and bring the money, $50 every week.
Do you have a regular time that he calls you?
No, almost any time. It's never the same day, never the same place I meet him. I haven't heard from him in over a week now. He should be calling pretty soon, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Usually call here, or does he phone you at home?
Both places. He seems to know where to reach me. I don't know what I'm going to do this time. I just don't know.
Ma'am?
I haven't got the money for him. I'm broke. $4 or $5. That's all I have.
Well, don't worry about it.
But he's going to want his payoff. You know that. What am I going to do?
This time it's on us. Before we left Myra Thomas at the beauty shop, we had a definite understanding that as soon as she heard from the extortionist, Ray Williams, she was to call us immediately, any time of the day or night. Then we called the office and made arrangements for stakeouts to be placed both at the beauty shop and at Myra Thomas's home in case Williams decided to contact her in person. The Thomas woman was given a plain envelope containing $50 in marked bills, which she was to hand over to the suspect the next time he demanded his regular payoff. 2 days went by. Tuesday, October 25th. No word on the suspect. Thursday, the 27th. Still no word. Saturday morning, October 29th.
I got it.
Right.
Vice Detail, Smith. How's that? Oh, yeah. Uh-huh, I see. Hold on, huh? Pencil, Joe?
Yeah, here you go.
What was that place again? Okay. The time? Mm-hmm. Yeah, surely. In about half an hour. Yes, ma'am. We'll be there. Goodbye.
What you got, Frank? Anything?
Yeah, Myra Thomas.
Yeah?
He wants to see us. I told her we'd be over in about half an hour.
What's the deal?
Williams called her. He wants his money.
11:15 a.m. Frank and I got in the car and drove out to see Myra Thomas at her apartment. She told us that the suspect, Ray Williams, had telephoned her shortly before 11 o'clock that morning and set up a date to meet her for his regular payoff at 10 o'clock that night. The designated meeting place was a small nightclub out on Santa Monica Boulevard. The Thomas woman was to meet Williams at the bar. We told her to get there a few minutes ahead of time, and if she happened to spot Frank and I in the nightclub, she was to give no sign of recognition. As far as the actual payoff was concerned, we instructed her to hand over the envelope containing the money to the suspect when he demanded it, without any argument. Shortly after 9 o'clock that night, Frank and I entered the nightclub and got a table directly adjoining the bar. It was a modernistic affair, lighted from below with a blue fluorescent lamp. A 4-piece orchestra was playing at the rear of the place. Nobody was dancing. Only a few of the tables were occupied, but the bar was doing a good business. We waited. 9:30, 9:45. We spotted Myra Thomas as she entered the club. She went to the far end of the bar, sat down on one of the stools, and ordered a highball. 9:50, 10 p.m. We kept waiting. 10:15, 10:30. Still no sign of the suspect. We watched Myra Thomas order another highball.
Getting late, Joe.
Yeah, what time you got?
25 to 11. Joe, just came in, coming this way, gray suit.
Yeah,
What do you think?
Well, the description fits, doesn't it?
Yeah, must be. Going up to Miss Thomas, talking to her.
All right.
He's got the envelope.
All right, just a minute. Let's give him room.
He's leaving. Going for the front door. What do you say?
All right, let's go.
Not wasting any time.
Come on, let's hurry. Down the street. Come on.
All right, mister, hold it.
What's the matter? What do you want? Police officers would like to talk to you.
Me? What about? What's the matter?
You got your identification?
Oh, sure, right here. What do you want?
We'd like to look at it.
Oh, sure, I hear you. Oh, excuse me.
That's your badge?
Oh, no, it's nothing.
Where'd you get that phony badge?
Friend of mine? Why, what's the matter?
What do you got in your right-hand pocket?
Nothing, just an envelope. Why?
Is there money in that envelope?
What's that?
I said, is there any money in that envelope? Currency.
Yeah, I think so. Why? What's the difference?
You know the serial numbers on the bills in that envelope?
Look, I don't know what you mean, serial numbers on the money. What are you getting at?
You got 7 pieces of paper money in that envelope. 3 $10 bills and 4 5s.
Yeah, what about it?
Extortion, mister. You know the pitch. Now, come on, let's go.
Now, hold it. Wait a minute. Let's get this straight, huh? So I got an envelope in my pocket. An ordinary envelope. That's supposed to make me a criminal?
No. No more than that badge makes you a cop. Come on.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On January 8th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 86, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, our sales records show that more and more smokers every day are switching to king-size Fatima. Now, this makes us feel especially good because it backs up what we've been telling you, that Fatima gives you more for your money. No other king-size cigarette can match Fatima quality. When you buy your first pack and compare them with the cigarette you've been smoking, you'll notice Fatimas do have a better flavor and aroma, and you'll like their extra mild and soothing smoke. Next time, buy Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Reverend Edward Williams was tried and convicted of extortion 1 count and impersonating an officer 1 count. He received sentences as prescribed by law and is now serving his term in the state penitentiary. Extortion is punishable by imprisonment for not less than 1 nor more than 10 years. Impersonation of an officer is punishable by a fine of not more than $1,000 or by imprisonment for not more than 1 year or by both such fine and imprisonment.
Friends, sometime during the next 2 weeks, you'll be asked to buy a poppy in memory of those who fought to keep freedom alive. Give generously when you're asked and wear your poppy proudly.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Frazier. Heard tonight were Herb Ellis, Vic Rodman, June Whitley. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
King Size Fatima, made by the same people who make popular Chesterfield cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Stay tuned for Counter Spy next on NBC.
Ladies and gentlemen, the entire production staff and technicians on Dragnet wish to thank the American Weekly and the television editors of the various newspapers which distribute the American Weekly for voting Dragnet the best mystery drama on television for 1951-1952. Our deepest thanks for this fine recognition. The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned a juvenile detail. An 8-month-old baby is stolen from its mother. It's the 3rd case of child stealing reported in less than 3 weeks. There's no lead on the suspect. Your job? Get him. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
Yes, compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Fatima gives you more for your money.
And in king-size Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, June 18th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of Juvenile Division. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Stein. My name's Friday. It was 6:30 p.m. when we got back to 1335 Georgia Street, 2nd floor, the squad room.
Hi, been waiting for you. Hi, Captain. How's it going? Any sign of the baby?
No, not yet. We're doing everything we can. We haven't got a lead to her name.
Lousy thing. How's it stack up? Anything like the last 2 cases?
Yeah, quite a bit. Same neighborhood, same general M.O.
We checked with just about everybody in the vicinity. No one saw the baby taken. Happened about 10 o'clock this morning?
10:15. This Mrs. Donaldson drove down to the neighborhood shopping center to do her marketing. She had the baby in a bassinet in the back seat of her car. Baby boy, 8 months old.
Mm-hmm.
She pulled into the parking lot right behind the market, left the baby asleep in the car. She went in to do her shopping. When she came out, the baby was gone.
How long was she in the market?
She told us about 20 minutes. We talked to a half a dozen people who drove their cars in and out of the parking lot about that time. They couldn't help me. They didn't see anyone loitering around.
How about delivery trucks? They usually unload supplies at the back door, don't they?
Already checked on that. We talked to the driver of a bread truck. He was making a delivery about that time. He couldn't help us either. The mother, Mrs. Donaldson, she's the only one who came up with anything at all. It's not much, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah?
But when she parked her car and got out to go in the market, she noticed a woman sitting in the car parked next to hers. When she came back and found her baby was gone, she noticed that this woman's car was gone, too.
Mrs. Donaldson described the woman for you?
Yeah, she was middle-aged. She had gray hair. That's all she remembered.
How about the car the woman was in?
It was a green sedan. That's the only thing Mrs. Donaldson could tell us. She's not even sure of that.
And there's no one else around the market that remembered the car, huh?
Well, if there is, we haven't found him.
We covered the whole neighborhood, Skipper. Talked to everybody we could. Got us nowhere. Smoke, Captain?
Oh, thanks.
You, Joe?
Yeah, thank you. I got a light.
Okay.
Captain?
No kickback yet on the broadcast. The old points you got out on the baby?
No, nothing. Up to now, it's a carbon copy of the last two jobs. No suspect, no motive.
Mrs. Donaldson can't think of any reason at all for it.
No, not a one. Her husband's a teamster. They don't have much money. She couldn't think of any friend or relative who might possibly want to take their baby.
The baby normal and good health?
Yeah, perfect.
It's got me. This makes it about one a week.
Just about. Martin baby was taken on the 5th. The Andrews baby was taken on the 12th. Both of them recovered in 24 hours. Nothing wrong with either of them. Sure doesn't make sense.
Must be a psycho case of some kind. I think we can go along on that.
Well, this one happened near 8th and Dinehart, that right?
Yeah, same neighborhood as the other two. About a 12-square block area there.
How about that lead you had on the old man out there? Did you exhaust that?
Yeah, the old gardener?
Mm-hmm.
We double-checked him this afternoon. He wasn't anywhere near the market when the Donaldson baby was taken.
How about the other two people you had your eye on? Either of them anywhere near the scene at the time?
Neither one of them, Skipper. Both clear.
How's it stand now?
Well, we're doing everything possible. Dean Bergman went over the Donaldson car for prints. The bassinet, too. There's no word from him yet. Special detail from Metro Division still going over the neighborhood. Nothing from them either.
No sign of any physical evidence, huh? I mean, besides any possible prints.
No, nothing, Captain. The usual number of tips from people in the neighborhood. Checked on all of them. They went nowhere.
Well, we've just about run the gamut on this thing. You have anything in mind?
Well, Joe and I were kicking around an idea on the way back in. Figure it might be worth a try. I mean, providing we get the Donaldson case cleared.
Yeah?
Joe?
Well, for one thing, we figure the neighborhood out there works in our favor. All three of the babies were taken in the same 12-square block area. It's the strongest part of the M.O. that we got to work on. Now, if we get good enough coverage in that area out there, it might lead somewhere.
What kind of coverage?
Well, maybe a system of decoys, something to draw the suspect out at the right time, the right place.
Makes sense. What have you got in mind?
Well, Frank and I were figuring if we could round up half a dozen policewomen or so, let them work different points around the neighborhood and make it obvious that they're housewives.
Yeah.
Have each one of them with a baby carriage. Spot them at the shopping centers out there in that area. They leave the carriages outside the stores, go through the motions of doing their shopping, and cover each one of them.
Mm-hmm. What do you do for bait?
I think we can fake it, Skipper. Put a life-size doll in each of the carriages, keep it pretty well covered. Very chance it'll get us a nibble if we work it right.
About half a dozen policewomen, that's what you figure?
Yeah, I figure that ought to do it.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Juvenile Division, Captain Stein. Yeah, that's right. How's that? I see. Mrs. Bolger. Yes, ma'am, I understand. How's that? Yes, ma'am, if you like. All right, thank you. Goodbye. Queer one.
Yeah.
Either one of you contacted Mrs. Marion Bolger the last month or so?
No, it's not familiar to me. How about you, Frank?
Don't recall the name. Why?
That was her on the phone. She wants to be investigated. Says she wants to prove to us that she's not involved in any of these child-stealing cases.
How do you spell that name?
Marion Bolger, B-O-L-G-E-R, Ewing Street address.
No, I never heard of her. What's the pitch?
Got me. She kept saying she's got to have her name cleared. She's innocent. Kept insisting she didn't steal the Donaldson baby.
Well, we didn't say she did. We don't even know the woman.
You're going to. Check her out.
We ran the name Marion Bolger through R&I, but there was no previous criminal record on her. 7:25 p.m. Frank Smith and I left the office and drove out to the Ewing Street address to interview the Bolger woman. Before we called at her home, we checked with some of the neighbors. Most of them had a favorable opinion of her. They described her as a pleasant woman, slightly eccentric. The only complaint was that the Bolger woman was very fond of children and that she kept most of the youngsters on the block well supplied with cake and candy, despite repeated objections from the youngsters' parents. Other than that, they seemed to like her. 8:05 p.m., Frank and I called on Mrs. Bolger, and she ushered us into a neatly furnished living room. She was an older woman, possibly in her early 60s, dark brown hair, streaked with gray.
It's the honest truth, Sergeant. Anybody who really knows me would tell you I wouldn't do a thing like that. I love children. I want all of them to be happy. I wouldn't steal anybody's
Just a
baby.
minute, Mrs. Bolger, please. Something we'd like to get straight.
I don't care how it looks. I don't care what they say. I didn't do it. I didn't steal those other two babies. I didn't steal the Donaldson baby either.
How'd you know the Donaldson baby was missing, ma'am? It just happened this morning.
The evening paper. The whole story's in there. It's the first I knew about it to help me when I got my evening paper. Please, Sergeant, you got to believe me.
All right, now try to take it easy, ma'am. What gives you the idea that we're accusing you of taking those babies?
Well, you haven't yet. Not in so many words. You're thinking about it, though. I know that. You've been told.
How do you mean, told what?
You know what I mean. All those stories going around about me. And just because I like children, because I enjoy them, I understand them. Just because of that, they try to make me out a witch or something, trying to say I took those poor little babies.
All right, just a minute, ma'am. Who said you took the babies?
Down at the store this afternoon. I heard them. That grocery clerk and that silly Mrs. Murdoch. They laughed about it. Tried to make out there's only fooling. Well, I knew better. They weren't fooling. They meant it. Accusing me of such a terrible thing. I just don't know when I've been so upset.
Well, now, what grounds would they have for saying anything like that, ma'am? I mean, even if they were fooling.
Only because I love children, that's all. People in the neighborhood are the same way. They don't like me. They go around saying things about me. Just because I understand their children better than they do. Just because I know how to treat children.
No, I think you got it wrong, Mrs. Bolger. The only complaint your neighbors have is that you treat children too well. A little too much candy, huh?
Well, nothing wrong with giving a child candy. Good homemade fudge. I make it myself. Besides, how would you know about that?
We talked to your neighbors, ma'am. They had a lot of nice things to say about you.
Yes, I just bet they did. Nasty, dirty stories. They've been passing them all over the neighborhood about me.
No, ma'am, you've got it wrong.
Just let me show you. Come in here, this way, the dining room.
Yes, ma'am.
Look at that. Look at that.
Yes, ma'am, it's very nice.
You see how I decorated the table? Paper streamers all over the room. It was supposed to be a party for the children in the neighborhood. I worked a whole week getting it ready. I made the cakes myself, decorated them, too. I made everything in my own kitchen. Candy, sandwiches. Took me a whole week. And they didn't even come. They didn't come.
Ma'am?
The neighborhood children. It was supposed to be for them. Special summer party I wanted to give them today. They didn't even come. The parents wouldn't let them. Not one of them. It's a crime. Terrible crime. All this good food.
Well, now, maybe there was a mistake, ma'am.
There wasn't any mistake. I invited the children, 14 of them. Mothers wouldn't let them come. I had everything ready. Little favors for each one of them. Now, look. Ice cream's all melted. Hot cocoa boiled away to nothing.
Yes, ma'am.
Even the paper streamers are coming down. Such a mean thing to do. Keeping children from a party. Such a mean thing.
Well, we don't like to bother you, Mrs. Bolger. Just like to ask you a few routine questions, then we'll let you alone.
Anything you want to know, Sergeant?
Can you account for your time this morning, ma'am, between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m.?
Yes, of course I can. I was right here in the house getting things ready for the party. My friend Aggie Benson was with me. She's a school chum of mine. She was helping me get things ready.
Well, then you didn't leave the house at any time this morning, then?
No, sir, I didn't. You can ask Aggie. She'll tell you.
Do you have a car, Mrs. Bolger?
Oh, my, no. I wouldn't know what to do with it if I had one. I never learned to drive. Why'd you want to know?
Just routine, ma'am. Well, I guess we'd better be going, Frank.
All right, sir.
And you don't believe those stories, do you? I mean, just because I like children, I'd steal those babies. You don't believe that, do you?
No, ma'am. We haven't any reason to believe it.
I knew you'd understand. I wouldn't do a thing like that. I just love children, Sergeant. Never had any of my own. Living here by myself. No husband, lonely. Terrible thing being lonely.
Yes, ma'am, yes.
There's only one answer for it. Children. Big family. It's an old saying. It's very true.
Ma'am.
When you get to be 63, you want something else to wake up to beside the morning paper.
8:40 p.m. Before we headed back for the office, Frank and I made a thorough check on Mrs. Bolger, her background and her alibi. We found nothing to link her in any way with the child stealings. 9:15 p.m. We got back to the city hall and went directly to Leighton Fingerprints, where we met with Dean Bergman. He'd found several sets of prints on the Donaldsons' car and on the bassinet from which their baby had been stolen. Most of them were those of the parents, Mr. and Mrs. Donaldson. Bergman was unable to identify the 2 foreign prints found inside the car. We contacted the officers in charge of the special detail checking the neighborhood where the latest child stealing had occurred. They'd failed to uncover a lead. 7:48 a.m. the following morning.
Friday?
Morning, Captain.
Good piece of news. The Donaldson baby, they just found him.
Where?
Highland Park area. They found him in a cardboard box. Apparently he's all right. A little exposure. Doctors are checking him over now at Georgia Street.
How about the suspect? Any sign of him?
Not a trace.
It was little or no different than the first 2 cases. Some 21 hours after he'd been abducted from the car in the parking lot at the rear of the market near 8th and Dinehart, the Donaldson baby had been recovered apparently unharmed. The cardboard box in which the baby had been found was gone over for fingerprints. Routine investigation at the scene and in the neighborhood where the child had been found failed to turn up a lead on the abductor. Frank and I checked with Dr. George Hall, who'd examined the child. After that, we talked with Mr. and Mrs. Donaldson. The details of the case coincided almost point for point with the first two abductions. The baby had been taken, then recovered in a 24-hour period. Outside of slight exposure, the child was unharmed. Also, like the two cases preceding it, something which the child was wearing at the time of his abduction was missing. In the first case, it was a small pink sweater. In the second, a pair of shoes the baby was wearing. In the case of the Donaldson baby, it was a sterling silver ID bracelet with the initials J.D. engraved on it. During the next 5 days, Frank and I ran down every lead we could get our hands on. They went nowhere. Our system of policewomen decoys was put in effect. It failed to get a rise. On the sixth day, Thursday, June 26th, 5:30 p.m., we got word of another child stealing, this time in the Echo Park area. We drove out to talk to the mother, a Mrs. Chester Osborne.
Yeah, that's right. I did the same thing I do every morning. Gave the baby her bath, dressed her, put her out in the backyard in her buggy. She usually plays a while, then she takes her nap.
And about what time did you discover your baby was missing?
I don't know exactly. About 2 o'clock, I guess. Maybe a couple of minutes after. Went out to see how she was, looked in the buggy, and she was gone.
Well, it's almost 6 o'clock now, Miss Osborne. How is it that you waited so long before you notified us?
Just kept hoping it was a mistake, that's all. I went from house to house all over the neighborhood. Went as far as 3 blocks away. I asked everybody. Nobody saw my baby. You don't know what it means to me.
Telephone, Mrs. Osborne.
Would you answer it, please? Whoever it is, take the number. I'll call him back.
Yes, ma'am. Be glad to. Hello. Yeah. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, Harry. We're here now. This is Friday. How's that? When? I see. Where? That's all. Uh-huh. Okay, Harry, thanks. Yeah, tell him we'll be right in. Right away. Okay, bye. Well, that was our office, Mrs. Osborne. You can stop worrying now.
What?
It's about your little girl. She's all right.
What do you mean?
I just found her 3 blocks from here. Again, with the lone exception of the time element, the Osborne baby's abduction resembled closely the 3 previous cases. The crime occurred in the same general area. The same general method of operation was employed. And again, outside of slight exposure, the child was recovered unharmed. There was also an article of clothing missing, a pink knitted bonnet. And, as in the previous 3 cases, the suspect had abandoned the baby without detection. Routine investigation by the crime laboratory crew and juvenile officers working the case failed to turn up a lead. During the week that followed, additional personnel for both decoys and stakeouts were assigned to the area without results. Friday, July 4th, 10 a.m.
Joe, you busy?
What do you got, Frank?
Galvin and Mildred Leslie just called in on this child stealing thing. Looks like it might be something.
Yeah, what's the pitch?
Well, this Leslie girl's employed as a maid for a Mr. and Mrs. Roth, R-O-T-H. She's a stockbroker. She's worked for him a year or so, she says.
Yeah.
The Leslie girl's an upstairs maid for the Roths. She's been following this baby stealing case in the papers right along. She thinks maybe Mrs. Roth can tell us something about it.
Yeah, how's that?
Well, the Leslie girl was cleaning Mrs. Roth's bedroom yesterday. She came across a few things stored back in one of the closets. Baby things. Pink sweater, pink bonnet, and a pair of baby shoes. She says they've all been used. They're not new.
Well, a lot of mothers save baby clothes, things like that.
No, the Roth woman wouldn't have a reason to.
Yeah?
She's never had any children.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
The only way you can prove to yourself that Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes is to compare them with the brand you've been smoking.
Yes, compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
Your money back plus postage if you're not convinced Fatima is better than your present king-size cigarette.
Just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
More and more of your friends are switching to king-size Fatimas every day.
Compare them yourself tomorrow. Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack and enjoy the added protection of Fatima quality.
Friday, July 4th, 11 a.m. Frank Smith and I left the office and drove out to interview Mildred Leslie at her apartment. She told us substantially the same thing she told Frank on the phone. The Leslie girl had been employed as a maid by Mr. and Mrs. Roth for almost a year. She went on to tell us that for the last few months or so, Mrs. Roth, who was a fairly prominent clubwoman, had been acting peculiarly, and that Mr. Roth was worried about her. According to the Leslie girl, he'd consulted a doctor several times about his wife. As for the articles of baby clothing, they'd been found stored back on a shelf in Mrs. Roth's bedroom closet. The Leslie girl told us that she happened to find them while cleaning and dusting Mrs. Roth's bedroom. Each of the articles she claimed she saw seemed to tie in directly with the child stealings. A pink sweater, a pink bonnet, a pair of baby shoes. Identical items of clothing had been taken from each of the previous abduction victims. After we left Mildred Leslie, Frank and I got to a phone, called the record bureau, and had them make a run for us on Mrs. Roth. She had no previous criminal record. 1:20 p.m. We called Mr. Roth at his place of business, but the office was closed because of the 4th of July holiday. We got in the car and drove out to the Roth home, an old 2-story mansion just above Silver Lake Reservoir. Mrs. Roth wasn't at home. We interviewed her husband in the living room.
What seems to be the trouble, Sergeant? Why would you want to see my wife? There's a few questions we'd like to ask her, Mr. Roth. Can you tell us where she is now? She took a drive with some friends of hers. I think they were going down to the beach club. Why?
Well, we're investigating a juvenile case, Mr. Roth. We think maybe your wife can give us some information on it.
Well, I'm sorry she isn't home. It's too bad you didn't call this morning. She didn't leave until after 11. She'll be home later tonight if you care to call back. You sure it's not something I can help you with?
Well, yes, sir. Maybe you can. I'd like to ask you a few questions about your wife's activities the last month or so.
Well, how do you mean? Some of the social work she does with the club?
Not quite, Mr. Roth.
You said you were from the juvenile division. Is it something regarding her work with the underprivileged kids? Her club does quite a bit of that, you know. Afraid I don't know too much about it, though.
No, sir, it's not that.
Well, I don't think I understand. What is it about?
Well, Mr. Roth, we want you to understand that this is merely a routine investigation. We don't want to offend you in any way, but we have some information that we've got to check out.
What do you mean? What kind of information?
Well, there's been a series of child stealing cases the last month or so. We're the investigating officers on it. Maybe you read about them in the papers?
Yes, I have, but what would my wife have to do with that? You think she has some information for you? She didn't say anything about it to me.
Yes, sir. I think she can help us quite a bit.
I don't know exactly when she'll be home. I don't have any place to contact her. I do know the club's taking a group of children to the Coliseum tonight, the big 4th of July fireworks display, you know.
Yes, I see.
I'm going to meet my wife there tonight. Maybe I could give her a message for you, tell her to contact you.
All right, fine, Mr. Roth. There is something that you can do for us right now, though.
Yes?
Would you take us up to your wife's room? I'd like to have a look at it.
Take you to her room? I don't understand. What for?
Well, like we told you before, sir, it's a routine investigation. I think if you take us to your wife's room, I think we can clear the whole thing up now. It probably won't be necessary to bother you tonight.
Well, I certainly don't understand, but come along if you like. The Doris's room is right at the head of the stairs.
Thank you.
Certainly has me baffled. What would there be about Doris's room? It has to be investigated.
We don't know that there is anything, sir. Just appreciate your cooperation.
Not at all. We haven't anything to hide. Here we are. This is her room. Now, what is it you're looking for?
That's the bedroom closet, is it?
Yes, that's right.
Like to look at it if we could?
Certainly. Go right ahead.
All right.
There's a shelf up there, Joe. Can you reach it all right?
Yeah, I think so.
What is it? What are you looking for?
Here you go, Frank.
Yeah. Pink bonnet, pink sweater.
That's it. Here's the baby shoes. The ID bracelet. Yeah, initials J.D.
Not much doubt.
No.
Baby clothes. Bracelet. Never seen them around here. How'd you know they were here?
Well, we weren't sure that they were.
But I've never seen them before. What are they doing in Doris's room? Why would she have them? I have to talk to her about this.
Yes, sir, so do we. After finding the evidence in his wife's bedroom closet, we continued to interview Mr. Roth. We briefed him on the details of the case and explained about the articles of baby clothing. He was very cooperative, but he found it hard to believe that his wife was responsible for the abduction of the babies. He told us that early in their marriage, his wife did have a child which died shortly after birth. Complications left her unable to have any more children. When she found out about this, it resulted in Mrs. Roth having a nervous breakdown, but apparently she recovered completely. Roth went on to tell us that his wife was very fond of children and that she devoted a great deal of time to social work, caring for underprivileged children. He also told us that during the past month, with the recurrence of her nervous condition, she'd been under a doctor's care. Shortly after 8 o'clock that night, along with Mr. Roth, we drove to the Coliseum, where crowds of people were gathering for the annual July 4th fireworks display. Roth pointed out his wife. We went over and he introduced us.
These officers would like to talk to us, honey. Let's step over here.
Well, I can't leave the children alone. Can't we talk later?
No, honey, it's pretty important. I think you better talk to them now.
Well, all right. If you say so, you'll have to stay and watch The children, though.
They'll be all right. We can keep an eye on them from over there.
No, I can't leave them alone. You'll have to stay.
Well, all right.
Ma'am, I wonder if you step over here, please.
Yes, all right.
This ought to be all right here.
Beautiful night tonight, isn't it? Children just love these things. I think they're just about ready to start the show. Yeah. Just look at that. The colors. Isn't that gorgeous?
Yes, ma'am. We'd like to drive you and your husband downtown to Juvenile Division. We'd like to talk to you.
What do you mean? I can't leave now. I have these children with me. What did you want to see me about? What's the trouble?
I think you know why we're here, Mrs. Roth.
I do. Why do you want to talk to me?
Well, we can start here, ma'am. We were at your home this afternoon. Your husband showed us your bedroom, the closet. We found the things up on the top shelf.
What?
The baby clothes, the bracelet.
Beautiful. Just beautiful.
How about it, Mrs. Roth? You want to come along downtown?
Just baby clothes. Had them in my closet. It doesn't mean anything.
I'm afraid you're wrong. It means a good deal, ma'am. You know that.
Yes. All right.
Would you want to tell us about it, Ms. Roth? Ms. Roth?
Where do I start? There's no beginning. Just started. I couldn't help myself. What can I say?
You just tell us what happened. Start any place.
My baby died. And they said I couldn't have any more. Guess it started then. I told my husband, told the doctor, too. They didn't understand. Nobody understands. It's all I wanted. My children, my own children.
How about the Martin baby, Mrs. Roth? The first one you took. How'd that happen?
Purple, white, beautiful.
What about it, ma'am? The Martin baby? How'd that happen?
I saw him in the baby carriage outside the market there. Such a cute baby. Pulled the covers back, looked at him. I didn't think I was going to steal him. After I looked at him, I just wanted to hold him. Hold him close, so I picked him up. You understand, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
He was such a sweet baby. Could have been mine. I kept on holding him. Then I started to put him down, back in his carriage. I couldn't.
What do you mean, ma'am?
I couldn't put the baby down. It was just like mine. It was mine. I can't explain it. I took the blanket from the buggy. I put it around him. I walked away. Nobody knew. It was my baby.
Yes, ma'am. Would you go on?
Oh, my head. Terrible headache. So hard to tell you. I couldn't even tell my husband. I lied. I'd take the baby and stop overnight at a motel. I'd tell my husband lies. I couldn't let him know.
Well, you knew you were doing wrong, didn't you?
Yes, I knew it. Not when I was taking the baby, though. Not when I picked them up. Not when I held them in my arms, held them close. It didn't seem wrong. Most natural thing in the world. I just pretended. I'd pick the baby up and hold it close. It was my baby. All of a sudden, it was my baby. Later on, I had to stop pretending. The baby wasn't mine. I had to give it back. Isn't that wonderful? Look, streamers, a shower of stars. Marvelous.
Why'd you abandon the children, ma'am, without notifying anyone?
I knew they'd be found. I made sure of that. I always put them someplace where they had to be found. Terrible headache. You don't know what it's been like. I couldn't tell anyone, no one.
Yes, ma'am. You about ready to go now?
All right. I could only explain it to you. I mean, having a baby, then losing it. You don't know what it's like. No one will ever know what it's like. No one.
You took 4 babies, ma'am.
Yes.
How about their mothers?
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On October 10th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 88, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, I believe all of us are willing to take practical advice. That's why I like to make it plain that I want you to compare Fatima with the king-size cigarettes you've been smoking. I know that's the tried, practical way thousands have convinced themselves Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes. You'll find Fatima give you more for your money, an extra mild, soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Tomorrow, get Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Doris Evelyn Roth was tried and convicted of child stealing under Section 278 Penal Code, 4 counts. She was placed on 5 years probation. One of the terms of probation required that she would be under strict supervision of a competent psychiatrist. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Herb Ellis, Vic Perrin, Virginia Gregg. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
King-size Fatima, made with the same people who make popular Chesterfield cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Each Thursday night, it's Counter Spy on NBC.